black Eddie Winslow. High self-esteem, fog the window. Pulling up on a pie with my kinfolk. Just fighting for a slice, worth the kimbo. Nowadays, dumb money been slow. It's hard to keep a buck, Ray and Jason Kidno. To keep it real, life a name brand ain't so simple. Bills, kids, and rentos. Lord knows a nigga tired. Back on the pen with an urge. Back on me dealing with nerves. Critics keep giving me shit by the lyrics I flip, so I flip on the bird. No people are living so high, I get kicked to the curb. Like I ain't living these words. Thinking a nigga that's still in the credit for shit that I didn't deserve. Nigga, absurd. You see how we did it, huh? The work I've been putting in. The shit I had given up, so many dinners my wife had to get rid of. Now she in the feelings, and P in his feelings. The boss of my business, the bank in my pocket. The problems you got when you go and you fit it. You know my intention is good. In a pit full of woods, where most of these cats are lying. Told me a deer in the woods, that's what they told me before the hard play. I had to learn it the hard way. Mistakes as an artist, we all make. I'm just embracing the falls, yeah, yeah. Look at the way when it crashed. Right in the belly of beast. He never went on a fast. Well, being too greedy at first, the nigga never did last. Running a couple of fades, only way you get a pass. Yeah, living on principle. Cause karma come back in the end like a Seminole. Don't try to bend the rule. You could get smoked in the corner, but that ain't medicinal. This could get physical. Luckily, I wasn't with the goons. Too busy writing in intervals. Came home and perfected the product in my mama's living room. Yeah, yeah. With a dream that I get on, yeah. Mama gave me the space, told me go be a star, yeah. You gotta take a fall, yeah. Don't let a roadblock get you upset, but instead go set the bar, yeah. Don't forget who you are. Wanna get to the top, then you gotta get tough. Sometimes when you lay a good hook, then you gotta get punched. Think it all come quick, tell a boy good luck. My OG said, let me take some now. If you wanna get down, you gotta get up, yeah.
How's it going, everybody? How's it going? My name is Tyrone Irvin, and this is Soapbox Heroes. Today, we have a very, very interesting topic that we're going to be talking about. It started off as a Facebook question, so I guess it's today's social media question of the day. So we're going to work in some of you guys' answers, and we're also going to get some commentary and some comments and thoughts from my two wonderful guests here. I have Rovon and the friendly friend of the people, but I'm going to make sure I take a chance to first thank them for coming on and ask them to introduce themselves. So Rovon, if you can, take a second and introduce yourself, man. Let everybody know who you are.
Yeah, I'm Rovon Brooks. Just a regular man out here trying to make it in this world, man. You know what I'm saying? Trying to get through. Truck driver, father.
What's up?
All right. Regular man trying to make it through, a truck driver, a father, and my OG, yo OG. You know what I have to add that, Rovon. We also got the friend of the people, Robert. Let everybody know who you are. And if you guys can share one time, let people know what we're doing. Let people know what we got going on here. Let everybody know who you are, Rob.
It's me, the friend of the people, representing you in this conversation right here. Click a like, subscribe, and support Soapbox Heroes.
Yes, sir. And look, you guys, we do this on YouTube as well. we're going to do it today on Facebook. We were having some technical difficulties on the YouTubes, but if you can, go to the Soapbox Heroes page on YouTube, hit subscribe. We do this all the time. This is what we do. We talk about things. So look, what we're going to do is I'm going to show the question on Facebook, and then we're going to go through and we're going to read some of the comments and responses from the people who left comments and responses on Facebook. And we're also going to hear commentary and hear what these two gentlemen have to say. So without further ado, let me get into it. Let me show my screen. Let me share. It's today, Monday. Hope everybody's having a good Monday out there. Let me ask you guys, how you guys doing? Robert, Rovon, what about you, Rovon? How's your day going? We just gonna jump into it.
Just trying to cool down, man. It's hot as hell out there. I was out in Arizona all day, coming across that 110, 113 degrees, 115.
It was that in Arizona, it's already 115?
Yeah, it's like 113 out there, 114 out there.
Man.
Out in Palm Springs, it was 113.
Man, yeah, it's about that time of the year where you could fry an egg on the sidewalk.
Hey, everybody was complaining about how cold it was just a minute ago now.
I never complain about it being too cold because I know the opposite. Robert, how was your day?
Oh man, just peachy keen, getting this work done, doing a little bit of research, staying abreast of what's going on concerning some of these candidates in this election. It was actually over 100 degrees out here too, but I used to live in Phoenix, and one thing I can say about Phoenix is it's a special kind of hot. I lived in Phoenix for 3 years, and I knew I fucked up when I seen the devil jumping on the bus with an air conditioner on his back saying, I got to get the hell out of here.
All right, y'all. Well, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen, let everybody see what I'm seeing. And we're going to go ahead and get into it. Make sure I got the right screen saved. I was doing a show the other day, and I shared the screen, and for 10 minutes, I had the wrong screen share. Didn't have a clue. All right. All right, we look good. All right. Hope you guys can see what I see. The question is, and I asked this question because I'm from California. I was born and raised in California, and living in another state now, I still hear California on the news. You wake up in the morning, you hear it on the news. You wake up, read it in the newspaper, social media, California this, California that, California this, California that. And I talk to people from California 90% of the time. And so I hear a lot of people from California and their thoughts. So the question of the day is, California, everything y'all don't like seem to be the result of the Democratic Party. So why do y'all keep voting Democrat? All right. So that was the question of the day. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to see what the first couple people said, and we'll get into it. Dion Unger said, well, the majority voted Democrat. So that's what we get. I wonder why everyone who don't live in Cali cares about what happens here. All right. I found that interesting. He was basically saying, if you don't live here, mind your business. Steph Serve says, are you unhappy with current legislation? What'd you say, Robert?
I just wonder what he means when he says, so that's what we get. What are you talking about? What is it that we got that he doesn't like?
I mean, I don't know if he don't like it. I think he might just be saying that, that's you vote Democrat, then you give Democrats. I think he's just trying to make it plain, if I'm not mistaken. Dion, if you watching, let us know. Steph says, are you unhappy with current legislations? Do anything affect you? Then I said, some of us were born and raised and still have family and friends out there, and often what happens in Cali spreads. That's why. Dion said, just wondering, because all day I see posts how much people that hate Cali and they don't live in the state. the great thing is that about in this country, you can live in any state you choose, which is true. But I think a lot of people talk about it. You guys let me know, because Rovon, I know you travel throughout the states. Do you hear about California and other states when you travel?
Everybody hates California. Everybody hates California for the simple fact of the freedom that we have, right? Because California is sunshine, blue skies, and the lifestyle that they think we have out here. They think everybody rich out here and all that whatnot. But people hate California. Truckers hate coming to California because all California knows is tax. All the Democrats know is tax, tax, tax. If you like it, they're going to tax it, plain and simple. So truckers hate coming out here 55 miles an hour on the highway, which is stupid. You know what I'm saying? Which is just another money grab, which is just another just another tax. You got people always want to move out here, but they move back. You got people leaving California in droves. In droves. People are going to Arizona. People are going to Texas. And people are going to Colorado. People are leaving California in droves because all they know is tax. Tax.
Yeah. I know a lot of people that's leaving California. A lot of people that's living in California. Let me see. Steph Surf says, Deion Unger, I full-heartedly agree. Some of the taxes are favorable, but other things are very desirable. Then Al Johnson says, Democrats or Republicans, they're just different wings of the same bird. And let me see. Clyde Stewart says,
I hear people say that a lot.
What does that
mean? I don't always understand what people mean when they say that, because yeah, we're all Americans. It is supposed to be two wings. We actually have two wings on one side of the bird right now, though. It seems that even Democrat, your average establishment Democrat, is a right winger. So we don't have a true opposition to the Republican Party in America because everybody's right wing.
Everybody's right wing. What you think, Rovon?
It's just two sides of one coin, plain and simple. Either way, they don't care because everything regardless. They're going to make it all right for those who they are bought and paid for. You understand what I'm saying? All these politicians have their own special interests, and very, very few of them have a special interest that's the people.
So you saying they all bought and paid for, period, point blank. Here.
One corporation or another one.
Let me see.
Right.
Clyde Stewart says, because people are asleep, free college, free health care, they are getting money out of your check, taxes, DMV tax, gas tax as well. Wake up and read. All right. Wake up and read. And here, we'll get back to those comments here in a second. Let me hear what you guys think. What'd you say, Rovon?
Look, when you talk about that gas tax, that's the problem right there. You know, they got the gas every election cycle. We pass a tax that's going to be for the road. We're going to fix the roads. We're going to fix the roads every election cycle. And they just keep taxing and say they're going to fix the roads. Now, you got a lot of construction out there now, but the question is, how much money are they going to hit us for? They want to do this high-speed rail. They want to. They got all these projects that they want to do, and that might be important as we move into the future. But like I said, all you know is tax, mismanagement of the money. Plain and simple.
Right. So look, and here, let me bring the screen back up. I'm gonna show you what some more people said. Because, like I said, we have a few different.
Well, let me comment on the tax thing he just brought up about the gas tax.
Go ahead.
Well, you know, one thing about California is, and one thing that's beneficial about California politics is, number one, when someone's running on the local level, they're not allowed to say what political party. They're not allowed to represent a political party when they run. So, so I don't know if for instance, my city council members, who's a Democrat, who's a Republican, my county supervisors, I don't know. Now, in terms of the gas taxes themselves,
they're all declared. They all got an RRT.
But you can't in California, you can't do that on the local level. Your governor can do that. People like at the state assembly, they can do that, but not governors, not your city councils, none of those. So when you think about it like this, when it comes to the gas tax, yeah, did you know California is one of the only states that anytime they want to raise a tax, the people have to vote on it? And that last year in 2018, on the ballot, there was a vote to repeal the gas tax. People rejected it. They did not vote to repeal the gas tax. That's what the people didn't do. So if we have a gas tax that's unreasonable, hold on. If we have an unreasonable gas tax in California, it is simply because the people did not do their due diligence. So we have to take responsibility if we don't like it to change things. Did you know that the Constitution of California has been changed over 500 times, over 500 amendments? Because normal people, it's very easy for a normal person to get an amendment to the Constitution on the ballot. California is one of the most progressive states, especially when in terms of the people having the power to change things the way they are. So we need to, especially on this state's level, we need to take more of a responsibility for what California looks like right now, not just a politician, because the way California's Constitution is designed, it takes a lot of the power out of the politicians in relation to the way other states have it, and it gives the power to the people. It's very progressive out here.
All right. Hey, Robert, let me ask you, I do know that California, they have to vote when they raise the taxes, but what was the policy? Mm-hmm. Was it written kind of deceptively? Because I remember people they woke up feeling like they got tricked. It was like, wait a minute. I didn't know this was what I was voting for.
Well, yeah, you have to actually read your ballot, because sometimes the way that they'll word things in a ballot, sometimes you're voting no for something when you're voting yes, and they explain it in a ballot. They explain it in a ballot, but people are in such a rush. Even the people that vote sometimes are in such a rush, they don't read. And that's the thing too. And if they don't, and some people read, but they just don't understand. So that too is a barrier. You know what I mean? It's not your fault if you read something you don't necessarily understand it. I do think they could work on making the wording of different laws and different ballots more understandable for more types of people, because I think it really does take a toll on an uneducated person voting sometimes.
Because people listen to the commercials and just listen to what the politicians say and just say, okay, well, they're telling me the truth, but all they're doing is telling you their truth, their own particular side of the story. Where with the gas, they put that as some kind of a safety issue, and if you don't vote this and that, and like you said, people didn't understand that to vote one way is to vote the other way. If you voted no, then you really meant yes. You really meant no. So,
right.
It was like that with gay marriage. That was one that was like that. That if you voted no, is because you wanted gay marriage. So voting no was a yes. And then if you voted yes, you didn't want gay marriage. So voting yes was a no. So I'm sure that actually confused some people. I don't think it confused most people, but I'm sure some people got confused.
Got confused. Now, let me ask you this. Do you guys think that that's possibly why people say that it's the same thing, or two sides of the same coin, or two birds, of a different feather, or whatever people say as an analogy? Because stuff like that. Because a politician could write a deceptive policy or could write a deceptive initiative, and they can almost trick the public to where to where things aren't just plain and simple in plain sight. Rovon, do you think that's what people mean when they say, they're the same? Because it's like, if a politician is supposed to be for you, how is that politician going to write something that's deceptive on purpose?
Without a doubt, because they think they know what's best for everybody. They don't really listen to the people that get into office. They listen around election time. Other than that, then it really don't matter. It's all about getting money for their district, all about lining their pockets. And in the meanwhile, they toss a little something down, toss some crumbs down, plain and simple, corruption in government. And that's the bottom line.
All right.
Absolutely.
Okay, I was about to ask you, friend of the people. I see your ceiling up there. People think your walls could talk.
I'm here.
I know, we know you here. People were like, can the walls talk? And we think that was a movie or something like that. All right, here. Let me go back to the screen and show you some more comments that we have here from the people. And again, if you guys are here, share if you get a chance. Let some people know what we're doing. Also, we do this on YouTube, on the Soapbox Heroes channel on YouTube. Go through, hit subscribe, turn on your notification bell. Let's see. Clyde Stewart says, especially black people, they have been brainwashed to think Democrat politicians care about them. If you are black, you better vote Democrat. They're going to take care of you and your children. Check out what Brother Malcolm X had to say about the Democratic Party. Let me see. I have to add some more to the Democratic Party. Vote for whomever is going to let you keep your money and not give stuff, and not give it to stuff they tell you is important. I live in San Bernardino, California. Brother got shot yesterday in the grocery store. Climate change is not our main problem. All right.
I would say I don't think. First of all, that's sad that someone did get shot in the grocery store, and I understand it's but I don't think there's anything that a politician can do to stop that. These are human behaviors. We can't legislate people's mentality. But if everything works out properly, that person that shot someone in a grocery store will be brought to justice. I mean, those are laws that are already put in place by, I won't say politicians, but I will say by our representatives, because some representatives aren't politicians. But to address the broader issue there, where he's saying, well, look at what Malcolm X said about the Democratic Party. Malcolm X probably had even worse things to say about the Republican Party, because the Republican Party during the 60s was pushing that law and order agenda that was leading to the mass incarceration of a lot of black people. There is, I don't think, and I think for a long time, really, America was a racist, a very racist in the government, okay? Because there's racism no matter what, and America is a racist place compared to other places in the world in a lot of ways. But the racism was rampant in the government, okay? And so at that time, I believe that there was nowhere that black people could go to get a lot of recourse. We had to actually fight and get out in the street and be subjected to violence and called rioters and thugs just because we wanted to be treated the same as any other American citizen. So that was a very tumultuous time in our history. Now, if you look at the Democratic Party now, yeah, they're not perfect by any means. Of course not, because for a lot of the reasons that the brother brought up, a lot of politicians are bought and paid for, and we have to recognize that, and we have to recognize that what's going on. But do you think that the Republican Party is a better alternative than the Democratic Party? Because if we're talking about leaders in our leadership, they're either going to come out of the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, because we're in a two-party system, unfortunately. So while we're in this form of government, do you believe that the Republican Party actually has your best interest in mind? Of course they don't. And the reason they don't is because black people generally don't vote Republican. They don't have to. They can pander to black people as much as they want it, and black people would not vote for the Republican Party. And so they don't even try to get your vote. They're not trying to win your vote. The best they could do to win your votes was when Donald Trump got up there and says, "What do you got to lose?" What the hell does that mean? What do you got to lose? We got the same thing to lose. Everybody else has to lose. We got our families. We got all kinds of interests that we have to lose. And for him to just say, you know what, the Democratic Party's been treating you bad, come over to the Republican Party. No, you guys have to show us that you can treat us better. They have never shown that.
Neither one of them know. That's the problem. We don't hold them accountable. We don't hold anybody accountable. Everybody just runs to the Democratic Party like, oh my God, the Democrats love us, and we go vote for them. Then we just go sit around and wait and talk about how bad everything is. You understand what I'm saying? You show me where the Democrats are stepping up for us. You show me where they reach out. They don't. Nobody cares. Everybody takes us for granted. Plain and simple. The Democrats don't care because they got us in their back pocket. They ain't worried about it.
Wait, so I'll show you how the Democrats are stepping up for us, sir.
You got to hold them accountable.
I'll give you an example.
Republicans don't care.
I'll give you an example of how Democrats step up for us right now. A perfect example of how they're stepping up for us right now is that right now there's a Democratic primary. And now we all, black people, white people, we're all going to have an opportunity to vote in that primary. But what are the main problems facing black people right now? The main problem facing black people right now is that a great deal of us do not have access to healthcare. And there's 30 million people, Americans, that do not have access to healthcare right now. Out of that 30 million, even though we only represent 13% of the population, over 25% of those people that do not have healthcare are African Americans. We need healthcare for everyone. Bernie Sanders is not a Democrat, but he's running for the Democratic nomination. He's running on a platform of Medicare for all. Medicare for all will automatically make sure that those poor, elderly Black people that have to decide between their rent and their prescriptions, that they are actually getting the help that they need. They don't have to make those decisions anymore. It's going to make sure that all Black children have access to healthcare, that all people that are working class, because very poor people in a lot of states get free healthcare, but working class where you're making too much money to get free healthcare, but you still can't afford healthcare, even in Obama's fucked up Obamacare marketplace, those people in that little middle section, in that gap right there, will have access to healthcare. And that is helping Black people. You know what I mean? So that's just one way that the Democratic Party is helping Black people. Because Bernie Sanders, first of all, nobody was running on Medicare for all. But when Bernie Sanders brought it out in 2016 and they saw how popular it is, 80% of Democrats are for it.
That was the problem.
Other politicians started picking that up too. So there's a myriad of politicians you can vote for that are actually running on a platform of Medicare for all.
Right. How does that get paid for?
Say what?
How's it get paid for? He said.
Oh, that's simple. A Koch brothers study, and the Koch brothers are right wing. They did a study on whether it would be cheaper for the nation to actually have single payer healthcare, or for people to continue to pay these private insurance companies for medicine plus profit, because they're in it for profit. So private insurance companies are in it for profit. The government wouldn't be doing this as a nonprofit single payer healthcare system. You would pay for it through taxes, but your taxes would be lower than your health insurance premiums and copays. So you would basically gain in the net. You would, instead of the money you pay to your employer's healthcare program that is not giving you enough coverage in a lot of instances, or is overpriced, now you have an opportunity to pay less in taxes, but some more taxes, but less in taxes than you're paying in those premiums and copays, in order to get healthcare in a way better healthcare program, because Medicare is actually the most popular healthcare system in the country right now.
All right. You got something you want to say to that, Rovan, or I'm gonna go back to the
Nah, go ahead and run with it.
All right, let me get back to it over here. All right, and so we read Clyde's comment. And Rovan said, Black folks are beholden to the Dems. Jermaine Fields said, preach, brother. What'd you say, Rovan? We are?
We won't hold them accountable, man.
Yeah.
We won't hold them accountable. We won't demand anything for our vote.
So you saying that they just get they get the Black vote just based on past reputation, or just based on the fact of what? Why do you think that the Democrats solely get the Black vote, Rovan?
Because they are effective in the message. They are effective in the message. And the Republicans have an identity problem. For real. The Republicans don't know how to get their message across anyway, and they just
Republicans don't want your vote, bro. They don't want it.
What?
They don't care if you vote for them. Republicans have never cared if minorities or immigrants or anyone has ever voted for them. They've always run on a platform that has been it's always been pro-white nationalist.
We never will in any kind of mass movement. That's why. Once they see the power of the vote, but if they could ever get their identity right, if they could ever get a message out and get any kind of representatives, then maybe we could hold them accountable. We need a third party as the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing about a third party is this: you're not going to be able to a third party. This is how we'd have to run a third party as Black people. We'd have to start a third party and say, we're not starting this third party to actually win offices. Because the nature of a two-party system, what a third party does is it gets its message across by pulling votes away from one party, causing them to lose elections. Then that party that is losing elections has to then come to you and say, well, what is it that you want? And then you make deals with that party. That's how this works in this two-party system, because a third party is not going to win offices. We can't go in there and be like, well, if we had a third party, we could elect our own. You can't. We're a minority, and the thing about a Republican, it's about majority rule. With protecting the majority's responsibility is to protect minority rights. See, we have to we can use a third party to make our rights known, but what's easier to do, an easier thing to do is to work within the parameters of a party to actually change the face of a party. For instance, right now in the Democratic Party, a lot of people feel the way you feel. Black people feel that way. White people feel that way because Democrats have generally been bought and paid for by the military-industrial complex, bought and paid for by big pharma, insurance companies, corporations, and the like. White people know that too, and they're disenfranchised from voting Democrats or Republicans. They know they're all crooks. You know what I mean? It's not just black people getting the short end of the stick. It's people getting the short. Americans are getting the short end of the stick because corporations are the ones that are getting what they want from the government, not the people. It's an oligarchy. So what's going on is right now there's a movement in the Democratic Party. It's called the Progressive Movement. So there's people that are called Justice Democrats, and they're running on a platform of Medicare for all, an end to regime change wars, environmental responsibility and changing, and addressing the global environmental crisis, free schooling for everybody, equal access to education for everyone in the nation. So those are the four main things that they're running on. There's also a myriad of things in social justice, criminal justice, and things of that nature as well that they're also running on. So, and then you have other candidates that may run on things like reparations. What we need to do is we need to identify as a people what our main priorities are, because people are going to the ballot and they're not thinking this thing through. They're coming and they don't have any idea what their main priorities are, because there is no perfect solution. There is no perfect candidate. What you do is when you have your priorities in order, you pick a candidate that matches your values as closely as possible, instead of just allowing whatever comes across the TV, like you said earlier, to influence you to vote. People aren't doing their homework. Sometimes it's because they have to work 12 hours a day and you don't have time to be investigating a lot of this stuff. And so you do get you don't have all the information you need. But the people that can, we need to be able to do things like this, have forums, soapbox heroes, other things. It's up to Black people to expand their media base so that we can continue to get information out to our people in a way that is quick, concise, responsible, and matches up with the values that we hold specifically, so that when they go to the ballot box, they're armed. We are now an armed weapon when we go to the ballot box. And that will get the attention of both parties.
All right, Robert, look, and I hear what you're saying. I've heard people tell me this. They say, why should I have to? And like you said, they work a lot. And so I've heard some working people who work 10, 12 hours a day say, I don't have time to study the politicians. And why should I have to study somebody who's supposed to be telling me the truth? And I think that has something to do with people disenfranchisement sometimes. They feel like you have to study for something that you don't know. But if somebody's supposed to be telling you something and they're supposed to be being honest with you, if you got to go study them, that means you don't believe they're being honest already. And so, like I said, a lot of people will say, I don't have time. And so
right.
Hey, Sharon Davis says, Lyndon Johnson said, we do something good for the niggas, we'll have them voting Democrat for years. He was right. All right.
Okay.
Allison Bryan says,
look,
yes, it has many different factors. Go ahead, Robert.
Just to address what you just said there, I know brothers that work hard-working brothers that work all day, but I bet you they can tell me we can have a comment on what Stephen A. Smith said on ESPN, or we can have what the score of the game was, whose stats is what. We know all about that. I know women that work hard, bus driving all day, come home. I bet you they can tell me all the tea on Housewives of Atlanta. So, but it's all about priorities. It's about what you hold important. And if you understand how important political power is, and who is in power does actually matter, and what you vote for actually matters, and what you do with your spare time actually matters. If people start to understand that more, we can be more effective. But I think that a more practical solution, because people are not going to give up entertainment. It's a large part of who we are not just as a Black people, but as Americans, entertainment, leisure time is very important to us. We as people informed, there are people out there like, Black media that should be well informed on these issues and delivered in a way that's exciting, that's concise. I think we should put the pressure on ourselves as people in Black media to hold the government accountable, because the government has always been a watchdog. And for the people, the white people have a watchdog over their interests in the media. We should also be a watchdog over the government in our media as well. So I mean, it's got to be people. It just takes a few people to want to step up and be a part of that and carry that burden. So it's not easy, but it's worth it.
Okay. Allison Bryan says, it scrolled up. Allison Bryan says, they know the percentages of educated people in each state, so they do it so the average person may not get a clear picture of the fine legalese terminology. Means some props and laws are written with the purpose to confuse you. They count on it. Quadir, peace. What's up? What's up, Quadir? Nice to see you. Peace and stability, original people. What's up, Tyrone? What's up? What's up, Quadir? You guys go check him out. Quadir got some wonderful things going on. But yeah, what do you got? And then too, Robert, look, I heard you say that in third parties, that if somebody runs for a third party, you're pulling a vote from another one of the two big legacy parties or something to that nature. I don't want to misquote you.
Right.
Well,
you're absolutely right.
Let me ask you this. How could they be pulling you to a party if people aren't supposed to belong to parties? If we're supposed to be, it's a democracy. So we're supposed to vote in whoever has our best interest. And so when people say that, it always makes me think, I think that's why third parties don't work, is because people discourage third parties from work by saying you're taking something from something else. But if you don't belong to no party, how can you pull somebody from a Republican if they're not a Republican? How can you pull somebody from the Democrats if they're not a Democrat?
Yeah, and that's a phenomenon because most Americans are actually independent. Most Americans don't belong to any party. But you got to understand that there's another side to humans and why they make certain decisions. It's called social pressure. And so let's use you as an example, Tyrone. You might come up with an idea, or you might experience something that leads you to believe something to be true. Okay, and you might find yourself in one way on an issue. What you might do is you might go on Facebook and write a post about that issue and say, this is how I feel on it. And then certain people, sometimes if under increased social backlash, you might change your opinion, or you might do something different that you wouldn't normally do. There's a marketing element to campaigns that people need to understand, that because the big media basically supports the Republican and Democratic parties, which are supported by the military industrial complex, big oil and things of that nature. They basically they have the lock on the marketing aspect of that voting. And that marketing is powerful. Those marketing strategies are powerful. They spend a lot of money on that. And the result is people will vote against their very own best interests. Case in point, back in 2016, a lot of very poor white people voted for Donald Trump, even though Donald Trump did not have poor white people's interests in mind. His interest was for the rich, upper donor class corporations. That's who he was for. And so people that didn't even agree with Trump's economic policies would still vote for Trump based on the marketing scheme that is Donald Trump. So you got to keep that in mind as well. So that's what makes the third party. That's one thing that makes the third party ineffective, especially in this day and age.
They don't have a good marketing scheme, huh?
Right.
Yeah, and I think too with the right. Well, what do you think, Rovan?
Well, he's right, man. I mean, he's dead on. You know what I'm saying? It's just all of this. That's all it all is. And Donald Trump is an expert marketer. You know what I'm saying? He tapped into something, and you just had a terrible candidate in Hillary. I mean, off top. You know what I'm saying? So that by itself was the loss in the first place. And she just forgot about the entire country. Just letting Barack Obama, Jay-Z, and Beyonce go out there and do her job. She just had it in the bag. She just feels like, and this is the problem, she is the epitome of the problem because she just took black folks for granted. And she just took the states that was blue for granted. She told white people you was racist if you didn't care about what the Mexicans was going for or what they going through down in South America. You racist. When them dudes out there starving because their jobs is going over down there to Mexico and over to China and all of that. And you tell, and so that's the problem. A real politician would have been able to beat Donald Trump. But you had Hillary Clinton, you had a lot of frustration, you had white anger with Barack Obama, you had black folks not trusting the Democrats really anymore because of the agenda that they're pushing. It was a perfect storm for Donald Trump. And his whole little bullshit because he's Donald Trump. So many people that I talk to say, I'll listen to Donald Trump because he's a billionaire. But the man's a liar. You don't know what his life is. Lies. So you have no idea. But because he says it so many times, people love repetition. That's how you remember things. That's how you, right? You did the ABCs and all that. You remember through repetition. Donald Trump says it. That's the thing. No collusion. No this. No, he got his own thing.
Right. Build the wall. Build the wall. He gets in it like that.
Wait, let me ask. What happened with that collusion?
He's racist. He's racist. But it ain't about he's racist. We know he's racist. So what did you say? And that's the problem with the Democrats right there. They got no message other than
he's racist. And then look, and like you said, when he said no collusion, and then they come out and say they can't really they can't charge him with collusion. There's not enough evidence to charge him with collusion. Then, it's the messaging, because you're right. He keeps saying it, and then it come out. Do you guys feel like those type of things actually help bolster him? I know we're getting a little bit off, but while we talking about it, that's something that crossed my mind. Do you think that helps him when it comes out? What he's saying almost seems correct the whole time?
Well, if you tell a lie enough times, it becomes the truth in people's minds. And so, yeah, but I don't believe, no, but the real lie was, I don't want to even get that. He didn't collude, and that's a good thing. See, people are almost disappointed. There was no collude, there was no conspiracy with Russia to rig the election so he could win, that he made with them. That was totally a ludicrous thing. When he was saying no collusion, he's actually telling the truth. But he knew he had to defend himself from a machine that was trying to take him down. You know what I mean? And I'm not a Trump supporter by any means, but I'm a true supporter. And how terrible would it be if we found out that the president of the United States was actually working with a foreign rival in order to rig the election? Wouldn't that be who would want that? Even if you don't like the president, would you really want him to be that type of person? That's crazy. Like, that's almost like the Manchurian Candidate. That's like a movie or something.
Something about that dude Russia, man. I'm telling you, man. Just something about that dude Russia.
You saying something
He
about him?
loved Russian women. he loved them Russian women.
Wait, this is my thing right here with Trump and Russia, because Trump was greedy. Trump was about money. Boy, Trump didn't even want to be president. Trump wanted to having run for president. He didn't want that job. He didn't want this. He wanted to be able to say he ran for president so he could bring more money, and then he could bring his clout over in Russia. He wants to build over there in Russia. That's his problem. He wants to tap into the money over there in Russia. I don't think it was about the election because he don't want to be president. He does not want the news and all these investigations and his kids on their way to prison and everybody. He's getting all the homies took to jail.
Yeah.
but you gotta realize this though, that since he's been president, he's come against Maduro in Venezuela, who is Russian backed. He's come against the Iranian regime, which is Russian backed. He's come against the Syrian regime and Assad in Syria, who is Russian backed. Everybody that's Russia's friend, he has been against them. Everything that he stopped the pipeline going from Germany to Russia. He's trying to stop them from doing that. He is really affecting, as president, he's really doing a lot to affect Russian interests in a negative way. He did not collude with the Russians. But there's a lot of terrible things he did if we want to get him. There's a lot of terrible things we could get him on, but let's not make up a lie. We don't have to lie on him to get him. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Well, look, Robert, if you and Rovan, I know you hit mute. I don't know if you meant to, but so Robert, why would the Democrats run with the Russian collusion thing if you say that there was no collusion? And then two, I think that's why people get so disillusioned. Like if they're supposed to be honest and they're supposed to be, above board or the opposite of the Republicans, why would they lie to people or continue to keep pushing it? Because you still see it some places.
They were shocked and appalled when they lost to the worst politician, worst person, like winning, like they lost to a game show host for the presidency. They were embarrassed. Hillary Clinton is a career politician whose whole career was culminated in that day, and she thought it was going to be a cakewalk, got beat, and they were embarrassed, and they had to figure out, like, wait a minute, well, did you know the Russians must have helped them? Like, that's what they had to basically do. It's almost like somebody saying you beat them at NBA 2K or something, and then you must have cheated. Oh, you cheated, or that's bullshit, or the computer cheated for you. It's just made up.
Yeah, they don't take responsibility that the Democrats robbed Bernie Sanders of that election. The Democrats robbed
exactly
of that nomination. It's proven. They just dropped the emails on it. It is proven they robbed that man because they had to have. They christened Hillary and Bill Clinton king and queen of the Democratic Party, and that was the problem. And they didn't have nothing going for them at all. Hillary is a terrible candidate. The Clintons are corrupt as hell, and they blew it. And now they got to get it from. I mean, man, it's like you say, when you repeat something over and over and over, right? No collusion. Where you look at CNN all day long. From the first show in the morning to the last show at night, they got breaking news.
Yeah.
All day long. Trump. Race. That's all you got. But you look at them, and you asked the folks, you asked before, Tyrone, you had asked before, what has he done to black folks?
Mm-hmm.
What has he done to hurt us? We hadn't done, but we get so programmed by the news and by the politicians that they are able. I mean, the media in itself is able to control the mind, the action, right? Through TV, through radio, through all of that. I mean, you look at. All right, I don't want to go all over the place, but that was. And I lost where I was at.
You were talking about how the media controls things. How basically all we hear is Trump, and so you know that's what people feel is because they hear Trump. That's what you were saying.
Everybody mad at Trump. Now you got everybody mad at Trump. Trump opened the door for all these crazy motherfuckers who coming out now, loving Trump. You know what I mean? Because he's coming with America first. But you got these fools that come out and they are real vocal. So now Trump has got to carry all that weight. I don't know. It's just he's up against the media and Fox News ain't big enough to really deal with MSNBC, CNN, and all of that. And that's where you get that repetition, and that's where they're trying to win the next election.
Yeah. What do you think, Robert?
Well, yeah, he's absolutely right with the media. Trump was basically under attack from the media. People like, what's the little short-haired girl's name?
Rachel Maddow.
I'm looking at her face. Rachel Maddow. Rachel Maddow is the most popular political pundit on national TV. And she spent the last 2.5 years basically talking about collusion. Her and Keith Olbermann, to no end, were harassing Trump. He had to defend it. Like, could you imagine if you're in that position of power and people keep saying this and they say they have this evidence and they're making up this kind of trumped up stuff and then you don't say anything though? You're basically, the people are going to lose confidence in you. So he had to come out and say something. And plus with his ego, he's egotistical, so he's going to come out and, oh no, I didn't do it. He's going to, chuck and jive and do all his little stuff,
Yeah.
But that's just kind of indicative of, if you think about it, that's something that has been done before. This was the same playbook as McCarthyism. You red bait somebody. As soon as someone says something and you don't like, or they have an advantageous position on you, you want to go and say, oh, they're colluding with the Russians. This is not something that is new. They were doing this, calling people communists back in the day, whenever they were, politically popular people, or even like movie stars or something that were speaking out politically. They would call them. They would say, "Oh, you're a communist," or "You're with the Russians. You're working with the Russians." They would do that to scare people off you. They're also doing that to Tulsi Gabbard at this point in time, saying that she is working with the Assyrian government and Assad, and she's working with the Hindus because she's Hindi. Or, she's working with the Hindis and the radical Hindis in India, and she's working with different groups of people because she's anti-war. Because she has an anti-war agenda, and that's the platform that she's run on this entire time. So the military-industrial complex is allowing her their telecommunications arm, which is Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, to speak out against her in a way that makes it seem like she's in cahoots with somebody, or she's not American, to compromise her patriotism. And they do. This is something they've been doing since the beginning, since there's been America. To try to stem the tide of your enemy's popularity. So it's nothing new.
All right, let me ask you this. When Obama first got elected, remember Mitch McConnell, a group of Republicans got together, I think at a Capitol Hill restaurant, and they vowed that they weren't going to let Obama succeed, right? So is that the same thing that the Democrats are doing right now along with the media when it comes to Donald Trump? Just honestly. What do you think, Rovan?
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. They are on Trump's bumper because of the fact that, number one, he just shouldn't have won. He just won. He's a buffoon. That's the problem. He's got great ideas. He just can't talk. He just can't get his ideas across. That's the problem. He's a physical asshole. Okay?
He's a bull in the China shop.
He's just exactly, but he's breaking up the norm, and it's hurting a lot of feelings. So without a doubt, they are hell bent on putting whatever they can on him. If they can punish him with Russia, if they can, because number one, I don't really know about no Russian and all that because Trump ain't going to nobody. You know what I mean? So I don't know that he would. So he would. I think he would definitely accept that help if it came to him. But I just feel like they're working too hard for trying to get him through.
All right, and you were saying earlier you feel like the Democrats don't have much of a message. Their message is more of "I hate Trump." Here, let me go back to this and see what some more of the people have to say. Ricky Ayala says, because it makes them feel warm and fuzzy inside. In the words of Trump, if anything, what have you got to lose? Vote for conservatives, not Democrats or Republicans, conservatives or libertarians. So he's saying, he said it make you feel warm and fuzzy to vote for a Democrat. Let's see. Steph Serve says, what don't we like? Maybe I'm missing things, a few new laws. And so I said, let's see. Steph Serve. Oh.
Yeah, this one left.
Here. We won't go all the way to the left. We'll just touch it real quick. Let me see. Oh, wow. I guess there's been some more replies since we've been on here. I didn't see all of those.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she says, I have a few Democratic views, but no better than to put Democrat in office. Trump was not getting my vote, though. Hell or hot water, changing my affiliation with the quickness. And so I said, well, maybe not you, but in general, I hear people complain about fuel taxes, bathroom laws, property taxes, cost of living, immigration, and more. Rovan says, yet we still ride with the party, Stockholm Syndrome. Well, here, let's talk about that. Because I think that Stockholm Syndrome. Why you saying Stockholm Syndrome? And two, I think a lot of the things that people don't agree with, as far as the Democratic Party, are wedge issues that are big within our country. And so I think that's the part we haven't talked about yet. Rovan, why do you say yet we still ride with the Democratic Party? Stockholm Syndrome.
Because, man, over and over, you roll with the Democrats. Then you look at Chicago and Detroit and cities like that are in the Democrats who would always have been. But they just drain the cities, just drain the people. And now you just look at Chicago. 200 people shot over the weekend.
Wow.
Emmanuel closed down the project to put everybody on the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The Democrats take funding away from programs that keep kids off the street. They take funding away from teachers. They take funding away from everything that might help us. This is the problem with the Democrats. We are always, our problem with the Democrats, we just so beholden to them, we just stick to it so much, we won't hold them accountable. We just accept whatever they give us. We call them Republicans racist, but every time you turn around, you got a Democrat call them some racist. Everybody put the Democrats out there like they love us so much, there's no political party does. And that's why I say Stockholm Syndrome, because black folk will fight you to death if you say anything about Democrats, if you say anything about the Obamas. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know, man. We just got a lock on the deal, and it just won't break free. We won't hold them accountable.
Well, you're saying, yeah, we won't hold the Democratic Party accountable. And a lot of the places where you see Democrats, you're saying you see a lot of things going wrong, and they've been going wrong for a long time. You said 200 people in Chicago got shot last week?
Well, maybe not last week, but I mean, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. In general, it's out of control.
It's ridiculous out there. There's control over there.
All right. Yeah. What do you think about that, Robert? Because I do hear that a lot. A lot of the places that you see having the worst problems, Democrats are in control, especially places where you see financial problems and where you see financial problems and a lot of killing. It seems like that's in a lot of democratically controlled neighborhoods, territories, jurisdictions, although there are some Republican. What do you say about that, Robert?
Well, that's a city problem. I think you go to any major city in America, including this one that I live in, San Bernardino, and you're going to see a lot of murders. It's an American thing. And it's a lot about the way that we view guns and things of that nature. I'm not going to blame it on Republicans or Democrats, because most of the people that are doing the shooting, they don't vote. You know, most of the people that are doing the crime and stuff, they're not voters. They're not law-abiding citizens. You understand what I'm saying? Now,
but the problem is,
I don't think that
you take away from the prevention. You take away from prevention.
Well, the thing is that we have to hold people accountable on the government level. That takes the people, and it's not just black people. The people need to do that. When you're talking about local elections, it's usually very few. When you go to most cities, it's very few powerful, rich people, old people. They vote, and they basically make decisions for the whole entire city. And we're not getting people out to vote. We're not in these inner cities telling people how important it is to vote. We're not helping these people understand the gravity of what's going on. And because of that, largely a lot of the stuff that happens as far as, you know, where funding goes and things of that nature, we don't have a say in it. We don't even put our 2 cents in. And then and if I'm a politician and that's my career and my interest is going to be to the people that put me in office, If I know you're not going to vote, I'm not going to protect your interests for the most part. If my job is to stay in office, I'm going to protect the interests of the people that I know are going to go to the ballot box. And so what's happening is we should really, as a black person, as a minority, as a special types of interests, you should be ashamed of yourself if you don't vote. So anybody that's listening right now, if you do not vote, and you're going to, because every time there's an election coming up, I always have to argue with niggas about should we vote, we shouldn't vote. You should be ashamed of yourself if you don't fucking vote, because you're basically saying, you know what, my opinion doesn't matter. And then when you get what you get, that's when you want to complain. Not saying that you can't complain. I'm not saying if your conditions are deplorable, you don't like what's going on, you can complain. You should complain. Speak up. Always speak up. But if you don't vote, you're taking away a lot of your own power. And then how do you know? There are so many forces in place that try to keep black people from voting, because they understand that if black people start flexing their muscle, that there would be a different, especially in a lot of these inner cities or these larger cities, the whole city would be a different place if these black people understood how much power they actually have when they get together and vote on things. You don't have to vote my way, vote your way, but let your voice be heard, because a lot of this comes from when they know you're going to vote, they look out for you. If they don't think you're going to vote, they don't give a damn. And I hate having to argue with niggas about even just going to the ballot box. But if I ask them opinion on anything else, they're going to open their damn mouth. But you won't go to the ballot box to open your mouth. You won't have these kind of discussions with your neighbor about what's going on politically, locally, what's going on in your neighborhood. You won't have real conversations with your neighbors. And then when things go awry, we want to say, well, the government's out to get us. No, you're out to get us. You're an enemy of all of us if you don't take your ass out to the ballot box. Point blank, period.
Was you gonna say something, Rovi?
Can't argue with none of that. I get on people all the time about that. About voting, about getting out and getting your seat. I get on people all the time about that.
I think the tide is starting to change a little more. I think people are starting to see more of the importance of voting. I do think that in the past it was just a lot of disillusion. Like I said earlier, I alluded to people. They'll write a proposition and they'll write it to confuse you on purpose. Stuff like that makes people not want to vote. You know, you vote in somebody and they say you're going to do something, then they do the total opposite. That keeps people from wanting to vote. So I'm not saying that I'm giving nobody no excuse not to vote. I'm just saying why I think there are some other ancillary reasons that go into why people don't vote. You know, when somebody loses so much, it's hard to get them to keep playing. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's what happened a little bit. Let me get back to the screen. I'm going to show you guys the screen, read a couple more of these, and we're going to get to Robert's comment. And Robert, I'm going to let you do your comment on your own. Let me see. Ethel Pickett says, both parties speak with forked tongue. 100s. We got a forked tongue, a serpent.
Who 100s their own statement? They make a statement, then they say 100. Like, no, someone else has to tell you you're keeping it 100, not you. Don't tell yourself that.
Ethel tells us that puts 100 on her comment. Let me see. Robin Rowland says, now, beautiful people. Let's look at leadership of Democrats and Republicans. Actions speak louder than words. 2019. Much love and respect. Okay. Robin said, look at both parties. Fred Elliott Sr. says, wrong. Everything that I don't like is Republicans. Okay. Chris Evers says, because people get their opinions from E! News and Extra. You guys were talking about that a little bit earlier about where people get their news from. Dre Trudell says, I don't have any complaints about California living, but then again, I make enough to live here comfortable. Everyone has their freedom, so I don't like, so you don't like California or its government. You are a flight away from your ideal state. Pack up and say goodbye. Because the moment California stops being good to me, I'm picking up my shit and leave. I think she meant and leave. And I can dig it. Some people just can't leave though. You know what I mean? Like, what'd you say?
Some of the dumbest shit in the world, man. It's easy to say that. If you don't like America, just leave.
Exactly. People don't want to leave their home, their families and stuff. Come on, dog. Give me a break.
Come on, dog. You gonna buy a motherfucker a flight? Like you said, a plane ticket. You know they ain't cheap.
You got plane tickets, you got to move, you got to find a place where you're moving to. Sometimes people, I think that is that's overstated. That's easy to say because sometimes if you're already in a situation where you can't afford things, then moving is not a small expense, especially if you have a family. You know, it's not like, you know what, I don't like it here today, I'm going to move. I moved to Texas and it wasn't easy. And I don't think everybody can do it. It takes time. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, Robert.
Well, Tyrone, the grass isn't green where, you know, on the other side, it's green where you water it at. We can make California a better place if you want to. But don't sit, you know, don't complain and leave, you know, leaving is your prerogative. But everybody doesn't, again, why should, even if they could afford to leave, why should I have to leave my family? I have a lot of family out here, for instance. I have family, friends. I have a life that I've built out here, a commitment to a community. Why do I have to give that up? Because I don't like things that I actually have the power to help change. It's just crazy. Come on, that's light work. Let's do the hard things sometimes. Let's make a better place for people, for us and the people around us, instead of just jumping up and leaving every time stuff gets hard.
Rovon, you said that's like when people say, if you don't like it here in the United States, then you can leave.
I'm American. Where I'm gonna go?
I mean, where am I gonna go? This is where I'm from. This is what I do. This is what I do right here. Where I'm gonna go? I mean, that just don't make sense to me.
All right, let me read a couple of these real quick.
Hey, Tyrone,
go ahead.
Could you pull something? Can you pull something up for me right quick?
Sure.
Go to Google and look up politicians keep most of their promises. It's an interesting study that they referenced here.
Campaign funds came up first.
Right, because they think that politicians actually keep their campaign funds that they don't spend during a campaign, which is not true.
Yeah,
they don't keep them.
And let me guess, they keep their promises because they promising people who they already feel are going to vote for them. So it's not real hard for them to keep their promises. Let me see.
Right. So is the one that's right there on, it's 538.com. 538.com. Yeah, right there. Trust us. Politicians keep most of their comments. 538.com right there. Yeah.
All right.
And then, so basically scroll down. Just scroll down. It's going to be a while, okay? Like, go, yeah, up above that. Just above that to the, yeah, okay.
The chart?
So, yeah, so because most people, yeah, exactly. So most people think that politicians don't keep their campaign promises, okay? But, and that's what most people think about politicians. But if you look at this graph here, it talks about the time period that they're studying. They study time periods, they study what presidents do and things of that nature. Most presidents, once they get in office, keep their campaign promises by a great margin, if you look. So that lets you know that, dude, you don't have to be afraid to actually listen to what someone's saying and look at their track record and vote for somebody and put them in the office because politicians are really good at getting done the things they want getting done. Once you have that power, there's a lot of things you can get done. A president and who is president can change the world. It's the most powerful position politically in the world. So who is the person you vote for is very, very important. So that's why if you really get a hold on what your values are and you vote for someone that reflects your values, you can't go wrong with that. Because if you win, you're going to have somebody that's literally on your side and reflecting the values that you want reflected. If you lose, you still let your voice be heard, and then you still, don't get it twisted. Don't think that these people don't analyze these elections. Be like, well, why did they vote for him? And they try to incorporate those type of things, you know what I mean, in order to next time to be even more popular or even more votable for. Because a lot of people want to go in on Trump and talk about why they don't like Trump, and I would like, that's great. If you want to talk about, have a party about why you don't like Trump, Go to CNN, MSNBC, they talk about it all the time. I prefer to talk about the things that got us a maniac in the office in the first place. Number one, if Obama was such a good president, we wouldn't have had there would have been no room for Trump. Okay? They wouldn't have, you know what I mean? But Obama was a warmonger. Obama compromised to no end with the Republican Party that basically stuck it to us throughout the whole George Bush years. They didn't care about any of our issues. And then when we get Obama in there, he's running on a campaign of change. He gets in, he doesn't change anything. He just remains in the status quo. You know what I mean? He keeps the same thing going, keeps us in these regime change wars, increases the national debt, doesn't really care about the people's issues. His whole cabinet was picked from a city corp email. They picked his whole cabinet for him. The corporate interests lived large during Obama. He bailed out the banks. During a housing crisis when he should have been bailing out the people that lost their homes with those subprime mortgages that the banks were giving out. You know, he chose the corporate interest over the people. And so the people were tired of that. They wanted someone that was an outsider, someone that said he was going to drain the swamp, which he actually increased the swamp, but he said he was going to drain the swamp. He said he was going to get us out of Syria. We're not out of Syria, but he said he was going to get us out of Syria. And he said he was going to do something about the immigration problem. Of course, he has a more heavy-handed build the wall. I'm more into giving a path to citizenship for people that are here already, that are law-abiding citizens. But he was more, build a wall, kick them out, all that. But Obama was also like that. He wanted to deport people and all that, have a heavy-handed look towards immigration. But if we didn't have a president like Obama, we wouldn't have a Trump now. And I guarantee you that if we vote for another one of these corporate Democrats, we're going to get somebody worse than Trump next time. Trust me. Trust me. You think it doesn't get worse than Trump? You have not seen some of the evil that is in American politics that the people will rebound to and bounce back to if we get another one of these Democratic corporate cronies in office.
Mike Pence makes Donald Trump look like a school boy.
Exactly.
Wait, who'd you say?
He's a religious zealot. He's a nut. He's a nut.
Exactly.
Oh, Mike Pence?
In the heterosexuality and everything. Yeah, that dude's crazy.
Yeah, Mike Pence is something else. People gotta go study him before they before they ask for that impeachment.
Right.
What'd you say, Rovan?
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead,
yeah, if Joe Biden wins, look for Mike Pence 2024.
All right. Look, Prince Gregory Hayes says Prince Gregory Hayes says Democrats as a whole are terrible, but there are individuals within the party that are dope. Yeah. All right. And then I also said, he says Republican areas are white rural places, because we were talking about Democratic cities being ran bad. And yeah, so he's saying that Republican areas are mostly white rural areas. Allison Bryan says, also because the average person is educated about government. They are told Democrats are for the poor and middle class, and Republicans are for the rich instead of teaching to look at the policy and the candidate, not the party. Allison, I think you got a wonderful point right there. What you guys think about that?
Awesome.
All right.
I couldn't agree more. She's got an awesome point. You know, let's look at the policy. Let's stop getting the wool pulled over our eyes by the stereotypes that we've placed on Democrats and Republicans. Yeah, there's a generalization we can make, but at the same time, there is most Democrats now, corporate Democrats, are actually right wingers that are in the Democratic Party because it's easier to take advantage of the Democratic Party in their positions. They're actually right wingers, though. They should be actually running against Trump. Like Joe Biden, he should really be a Republican running against Trump. But he knows that in the Democratic Party is where he's always buttered his bread with corporate interests. So that's where he's going to remain until he is disgraced and bounced out. So
All right. And here, Robert, we got your comment right there. You want to read your comment and let people know what you wanted to say about this in general? Then I have another question for you guys real quick, and we can wrap it up. The next question is going to be interesting. Go ahead, Robert.
Sure. So it says, so how many of you want every American to have health care? And how many of you want everyone to access to education without crippling student loan debt? How many of you want an end to regime change wars? And how many of you understand that climate change is an existential threat to all people? How many of you want criminal justice reform? And how many of you want to see multi-billion-dollar corporations pay their fair share of taxes? See, as long as you're saying don't vote for Democrats, you're voting against these types of policies. Every Democrat does not feel this way. You have to find the ones that policies match up with these. But there are Democratic candidates that these are the main policies that they're talking about. So again, just to the young lady's point, don't look at the party and say, oh, the Democrats have always done us wrong and maybe we should vote Republican. No, don't worry about the party name. Let's look at the candidates and let's look at the policies that they reflect. Like, for instance, if you're talking about healthcare and you want everyone to have access to healthcare, you're going to want to vote for a candidate that has supports Medicare for all. If you're going to want to get rid of student loan debt, there are a few candidates in the Democratic Party that are talking about canceling student loan debt. There's no one on the Republican side that is talking about health care at all or about doing anything about student loan debt. How many of you want to end regime change wars? Donald Trump ran on his platform and was very popular. Americans do not want to be in these regime change wars in Syria and Afghanistan. They don't want to be in these places anymore. And but he refused to take us out of these wars. But there are candidates in the Democratic Party that are running on that platform of ending regime change wars. How many of you understand that climate change is an existential threat to all people? The Republican Party is actually allowing deregulating businesses that affect the environment, impact the environment. But on the Democratic side, there are Democratic candidates that are committed to change. Governor Inslee is one example of that. Everything he talks about is about climate change and about staving off this existential threat. You guys don't understand, if we don't do something in the next 12 years, if we don't make substantial changes to the way we do things, our planet is going to be in real danger and there's not going to be no coming back from it. And it could mean the end of civilization as we know it. People don't understand that, but it's very important. How many of you want criminal justice reform? I think every Black person wants criminal justice reform. I don't hear Republicans talk very much about criminal justice reform. Unless there's Republicans that are actually getting behind a bill that has been brought forth by a Democratic candidate. And how many of you want to see multi-billion-dollar corporations pay their fair share of taxes? You know, Trump has given trillions. And so, you know, but the Democrats are talking about making sure that the richest Americans actually businesses pay their fair share. So it's important for us to not turn our back on the Democratic Party, but to look for candidates that reflect these policies if this is what's important.
All right. And look, Robert, here, let me ask you a couple of questions real quick. And Rovon, you jump in, you Bogart whenever you want. But Robert, I got to ask you a few. Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, your it sounded like your headphones was.
Yeah, they died, but I'm here.
They was.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yeah. All right, Robert, you say, how many of you want to see multi-billion-dollar corporations pay their fair share of taxes? All right, I hear you. But the Democrats don't quite do that either. I understand there might be a couple individuals, but as a whole party, Democrats allow tax loopholes and they allow companies to get away with murder too.
That's why you have to focus on not the party, on the individual, and understand what your priorities are. See, as a voter, you have to understand the politicians only have the power that you give them. So the power you decide to give to someone has to be based on your values. If you don't have your values, maybe you don't care about this. Maybe you like tax loopholes. Maybe you take advantage of them. Then that's not a priority for you. But if it is a priority for you, then do your homework and find out whose priorities, whose values match yours. Don't just vote willy-nilly.
Right, because and you're right, because things are more individualized. You say, how many of you want criminal justice? I'm just telling you what I know people would say, and people would say, didn't Bill Clinton do the crime bill? He's a Democrat.
Right.
Joe Biden wrote it.
Joe Biden wrote it. Kamala Harris, she was a Democrat, and she was hard on criminal justice reform and criminal justice right there in California.
She's a prosecutor.
Right there in California. Climate change, yes, I do think climate change is is primarily, it seems like, a Democratic thing, although you do have some Republicans who care or give lip service to saying they care. How many of you want to end regime change wars? But see, then again, Robert, when the Democrats say that, a minute ago we were talking about how Obama, he didn't end any regime change wars. He just kind of droned people to death. You see what I'm saying?
They will kill him. They will kill the president that tried.
You say they go
big money. War brings big money. That's plain and simple. That's the truth. They will kill him.
Right.
Stop the wars over there. They will take you out of here. Plain and simple.
Right. All right. Here. Go ahead, Rovon. Throw in whatever you want to throw in.
No, I'm just saying, they'll kill the president. If he come out there and try to stop these wars that all these motherfuckers is loving, all these rich folks is loving, they're knocking him off.
Right. You say he get knocked off.
He's just a puppet.
Right. Princess, I hate the Dems, no doubt. Let me see. Candy Black, what it do? Okay, that's what Ronald said to Candy Black. Candy Black said, I moved from Cali in 2015, stayed gone for 3 years and came back. All right. Allison Bryan says, public servants, they work for us. Yes, Robert.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think they work for us too. I just don't think that they remember that all the time. And I agree with a lot of what Rovon said. I don't think we hold them accountable.
Right. He's absolutely right when he says that. Tyrone, you remember, we've got to prioritize our own. See, it starts with us. We have to understand what it is that we want. And then part of that also is refusing to vote for people that don't give it. Like, for instance, there are Democrats, and I'm trying not to tell anybody who to vote for or influence anybody's vote. That's not what I'm here for. There are Democrats. I've chosen who I'm going to support for the Democratic nominee. And in the presidential election, I've already chosen who I'm going to support. Okay. Now, if that person doesn't win, I'm not automatically going to just vote for Democrat just because, oh, well, he's not Trump. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, you know what I mean? I'm not going to just vote, and you don't just earn my vote because you're the lesser of two evils. I'm not looking for better than Trump. My dog can beat Trump, but that's not what I'm looking for in a candidate. And before I do that, I would rather look for alternative write-in or stump for someone else before I just allow them to get my vote if they don't match my interest. See, that's where we have to hold strong.
All right. And so let me throw one more thing in there, and it's a wedge issue, and it's like it's the elephant in the room, and I think it can't be avoided, but it's the truth. A lot of reasons that people don't want to vote for Democrats or people are frustrated with Democrats is because it seems like they're pushing a gay agenda. That's what you hear a lot. That's what you hear. That's what you see. What do you guys think about that? And I got that in the message saying to ask. So what do you guys think about that?
What's a gay agenda? What is the gay agenda? That gay people want the same rights as everybody else? If that's the gay agenda, why wouldn't someone push that? They're people just like everybody else. And what they do in their bedroom has nothing to do with me. I don't know what a gay agenda is exactly.
I'm all for everybody got a right to live their life. I've said this shit over and over and over. Everybody has a right to live their life. Everybody has a right to make their decision. If you love whoever you love them. When you talk about gay marriage, me, myself, I got an issue with marriage. But I don't have an issue with the fact that they want these rights. They deserve these rights that are given to a heterosexual marriage. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have a problem with everybody having rights. Everybody, like the Constitution says, is endowed with the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and it happens. That's all good with me. My problem is when you go into the kindergarten, you go into the preschool, and you want to start pushing the homosexual situation on kids who I've never ever seen struggling with their sexuality, but you want to push this in schools, and you want to push this at the kids, talking about, oh, it's all about not being bullied and not this and that. You can do that easily without pushing and teaching kids about transgenders and all of that, which is a choice. It don't change who you are in any way, shape, or form. But if you want to push this at the kids, if you want to push this, I feel like you're trying to change the kids, you're trying to affect the kids. You understand? You're trying to bring the kids over to your side. There's a movement all in there where they want to legalize pedophilia. You're throwing all kind of extra things up in the alphabet here, LGBT and the Q and the P's and all of that, because everybody's falling up in there. But I feel like that's the problem for me. I don't have a problem with everybody having rights. Everybody wants to live their life, and I don't have a problem with everybody living their life. But you got schools that don't have a decent Black history program.
But
all you ever see is Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. But they don't tell you nothing about Black folks. But you want to start pushing this. You want to start pushing transgenderism and all this down the kids' throats. I ain't for it. I don't see no reason why that has to be in the kindergarten class. I don't see it.
But Ravon, with respect, that's not their job. That's not a school's job. Because if I go to a house and knock on the door and they got a Greek family, them Greek kids know all the little Greek culture, their dishes, they're celebrating their culture and things of that nature. You understand what I'm saying? I go to an Asian family, they're living in their culture, they're celebrating their culture at their home. Okay, and that's fine. If all you can do is teach my kid about a couple of good Black Americans, most teachers are white women anyway. But I take a responsibility for showing my kids their heroes and where they're from, their lineage. That's okay. That's fine. The whole thing though boils down to this: the government does not have the right to infringe on the rights of gay people, no matter how they identify themselves. If they're saying that two people can get married, two people can get married. They're American citizens. They should be able to get married. Now, if we don't like it, we don't like it. But the government should not be able to discriminate against people. And if you think that that's part of some kind of agenda, guess what? It is. There should be an agenda against discrimination against people for who they love or what color their skin is or what race or what sex they are. That should be an agenda for all Americans. That's not a gay agenda. That's an American agenda. And so people like to put that on there because they're bigots and they have their own biases. But those biases, you have a right to them. But the government should not have a bias, is what I'm saying. And that's where the problem is. When the government has the bias, that's a problem. The government is supposed to protect minority groups. Because if we don't allow the government to protect gay people, next thing you know, there are going to be even more marginalizations against Blacks and Hispanics in this nation. I guarantee it.
All right, let me ask you a question, Robert. What does putting new sexual guidelines on teachers to where they're talking about LGBTQ stuff in those early ages of elementary school, what does that have to do with protection? That's what I think a lot of people are talking about when they say that it's an agenda being put on them, because like teaching kids about LGBTQ history or accomplishments, it isn't a protection. That seems like it's something they're just adding.
If it's part of history, it's history. If it's a sex education thing, you want your kids to know that there are gay people that exist. That's not, everybody's not like them. You want them to know that.
So my thing is this: so if it's up to my kids, if it's up to me to teach my kids about Black history facts, it's up to me to teach my kids about all of that. Why isn't it up to me to teach my kids about the transgender? Why isn't it up to me to teach my kids about there's homosexuals out here and all this going on?
Well, everyone can opt out of sex ed class. Everyone can opt out. You can opt your kids out of sexual education at school.
Huh? In kindergarten?
Yeah, you can always opt. They don't even have sexual education in kindergarten, but you can opt your kids out of sexual education. As far as say you read a storybook, and in the storybook there was gay people in the storybook. There's gay people in real life. That's part of our world that we live in. There are gay people in real life. You're gonna cloud it from, wait, my kids aren't allowed to know that gay people exist until they're 13, 14 years old? And do you think that, and look, Ravon, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a quick question.
Why is it the school job to tell them about it? Why is it the school job? Just like you say, why is it the school job to tell the kids about black folks, about Black Panthers, about Marcus Garvey, and you understand me, about stuff that they ain't gonna hear about in their school? Why is it not up to the school to tell them about that?
That's how I learned about all those people. My parents didn't really talk about stuff like that. The way I learned about all those people was school. Marcus Garvey, the Black Panthers, Malcolm X. That's how I learned about it in school. I learned about that in school.
Where?
In public school. I went to public school like everybody else. I learned about all that in school because my parents didn't talk about that stuff.
All right.
Look, I saw a book. That was talking about George Washington. I can't remember one of them. One of their plantations talking about how the black folks and white folks working together and all of that. I agree. It's up to the parents to teach their kids about things, and it's not up to the school to teach them about everything. Some things they can get at home, and some things they should learn at home. But I don't agree, because this is my thing here. If you got this class where you're telling the kids all about the gay thing and how they this and that and woo, right?
My son in kindergarten. I have a son in kindergarten. His experience is nothing like that. Just to let you know. He's in kindergarten. I have a son in kindergarten right now.
All I know is this is what I'm hearing Democrats talk about.
But my wife is a teacher too. My wife is a teacher too. She doesn't do none of that.
This is what they talk about it. First is a conversation, then it's a law. You understand what I'm saying? Just like it was a conversation or somewhere. I never even heard about kids, about transgender kids having problems using the restroom. Next thing you know, you got Obama withholding federal funds from schools if they don't put a special restroom off to the side for transgender kids. I never heard nothing about that being a problem.
Okay. The thing is, Ravon, the reason that there's so much, I won't say just homophobia, because there are people that are homophobic, but there are people that are, it just makes them uncomfortable. Homosexual conversations, things of that nature. The reason it's so much uncomfortable and stuff like that is because of there's not enough education on it. So we don't want our kids to grow up bigoted towards homosexuals. Why? Because we're trying to make sure that this is a place where everyone can live peacefully. And homosexuals have been marginalized. Black people, it was the same thing with black people. It wasn't the fact that everybody was a racist. Some people were just uncomfortable around black people because they didn't know nothing about black people. But once they learned and got to know them and actually met black people, guess what happened? They weren't really racist. They were just like, wait a minute, this person's just like me. They were educated on black people. Do you understand what I'm saying? Education is the way we fight bigotry. Do you understand? And we have to educate kids on what's going on. Ravon, did anybody ever tell you to be attracted to women, or did you just realize one day that you were attracted to women?
I've been attracted to women since I was a baby.
Since you was a kid, right? Since you was real little.
Yeah.
Right? So if someone's gay and they're attracted, so a man attracted to men, how long do you think they were probably attracted to men? Probably about as long as you were attracted to women. And it was something that was natural. Nobody had to tell them to be gay. No, you wouldn't become gay because if you watch TV right now and there's a bunch of gay people or a gay pride parade on TV, would you become gay?
But you also have some people that was right on the fence, could have gone either way. But
no, there's no such thing. Come on, dude.
All right, look, let me say this, Robert. I do think, like, if we're gonna take this turn, I do think, just like you said earlier, if somebody lies enough, it becomes the truth. I do think that if you start at a young age and you put things in somebody's head that something is okay or something is something you might want to try, then yeah, it might work. You know, it's just
They're
like candy.
In school, you might want to try being gay. They're not saying that. They're saying gay people are the same as everyone else.
Well,
gay people are the same as everyone else.
Who just decide on today I'm gay? I know girls right now. Today they lesbians, tomorrow they gay, tomorrow they all
Look,
like.
I used to get locked up. I used to get locked up for stuff a lot. And sometimes people would get locked up.
When they push that shit with the fashion, when they push that shit with music, when they push it in the book, when you push it, you'll flip a couple people.
Nah, look. I used to get locked up a lot, and people would get locked up, and some people would turn gay while they were locked up. And you know what we'd always say? They was always gay. It just came out to them when they just came out of it.
Some cats got.
It's called coming out the closet for a reason, because they was in it.
That's not true. Some cats got raped up in there. It got turned into homosexual.
Well then, yeah, and that's violence. That's because that's violence. Are they doing violence? Are they doing violence in the school system to the kids? Is that what they're doing? Are they turning people gay?
Okay, so let's look at this. In with the cats. Are they doing violence to the kids? You understand me? When they over there touching on their little PP?
With what? I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah, Rovon, try to talk closer. You sound a little bit muffled.
All right, so let's look at it like this. When we talk about the Catholic priests, they doing violence and all of that, when they was over there molesting on them little boys and all that, nah, they was playing the big fight.
That's violence. Hold on, that's violence. Being a sexual molester, a sexual predator, that's violence.
They didn't take it. They didn't take it. They coerced them.
Kids can't give consent. Kids cannot give consent. That's taking it. You always take it from kids. They cannot give consent.
No. Hold on. No, I ain't saying that no kid ever said, okay, I'm cool with this. No. Right. Priests play that role. It's okay. So right there, the act is a violent act. But his mode, his movement wasn't violent. He picked one out of the crowd. He picked a little boy.
But who's saying that's okay though? That's the thing. Now we got to say who's saying it's okay, and who's protecting these people. The Catholic Church is doing it, but is the government doing that? No.
All right.
The problem is when you got that little kid over there who kind of awkward, who kind of off to the side, off to himself, and you got this indoctrination in class and all of that, where they pushing this, and gay thing, and they pushing it at them all day long in class.
All day long, dude.
Maybe it ain't all day long, but what I'm saying is period.
All right, look here. Let me jump in Let me jump in and say this real quick. This is okay. When you say, are they turning kids to be gay in school? It's not about a fast turning. It's like this. If you show Jimmy and Timmy and their little boy, you have two men and a little boy, and they're always walking to the park in the book, and they're smiling, having a wonderful time. It's telling a little kid, well, look, hey, maybe I have a wonderful time if I grow up like this. It's opening them up to things that they normally wouldn't see, that some people would say, is it natural? And so is it making them? No, but can you encourage somebody without telling them to do it? Yeah, by constantly making it look like a positive thing, or always making it look like it's the thing to do, is how you could make somebody do it kind of by proxy without even telling them to do it. It's just like candy for the kids. They put the candy on the low row in the aisle, and the more you see it, the more you want it. Now, if they put the candy to where you couldn't see it, the kids wouldn't ask for the candy every time they got in line. And so I think that's what people mean when they say they're not necessarily making them gay, but they keep making them see it. And the more you see something,
it exists in real life, Tyrone.
It exists in real life. But then going to what you said, going to what you said earlier, there's some things that the school should teach the kids, and there's some things that the parents should teach the kids. And I think that's where people are getting frustrated, because a lot of parents say, I want to teach my kids about this. I want to tell them in their own time. And then the states are coming in and saying, no, we're going to do it for you.
But that's basically what they're doing, is they're actually just acclimating people to real life. Parents, if you want to reserve the right to tell your kids, you better not be a faggot, and being a faggot is wrong. If you want to do that,
no, see, you're kind of overstating that, because that might not be what somebody says. Somebody might want to just wait till the right time.
That's different than what they're saying. What do you want to say that's different than what the school's saying? What is the school saying? Tyrone.
Yes.
See, the whole thing is, Tyrone, if they were cool with them saying, being gay is okay. It's okay. Like if there's a kid and he's in 4th or 5th grade and he knows he's gay, it's okay if that kid's gay, or if he feels a little bit differently, or if he's attracted to a different group of people. If they're saying it's okay, why would you have a problem with that if you want to teach your kids it's okay? If you don't want to teach your kids it's okay, you have a problem with people saying it's okay. So it's only the people that have a problem that want to teach their kids that it's not okay, like, or it's okay for other people to be gay, but you're not gay, son. You're not gay, like that. And that's why so many people that are gay, that's why so many people that are gay have stories of being separated from their families and their families shunning them and not accepting them, because this behavior has been perpetuated generation through generation. And sometimes people need to let them know that, hey, before you kill yourself, before you feel shunned, before you do, because there's a high suicide rate for those people, right? High suicide rates and high irresponsible behaviors and a lot of homelessness amongst them for those reasons. So before y'all do all that, let someone say, hey, you know what? You might be different than the other kids. You might be different, but it's okay to be you. Because they're not getting that at home, obviously.
All right.
Why I can't say that to my kids? Why I can't foster a relationship with my kids when my kids talk to me and tell me how they feel and I deal with all this in my house?
You can, but wouldn't you want the school to reinforce that if you're saying that? If you're saying that, wouldn't you want your school to say the same thing?
Just like you said, it ain't up to the school to teach them about this, that, and the other thing. So it ain't up to the school to teach them about this, that, and the other thing.
But you're missing the point when I said it's not up to the school, meaning it's not up to the school to teach my kids Black history. But if the school wants to teach Black history, that's what's up. I'll reinforce it at home. So if the school is saying something, the same thing you're saying and reinforcing the things where you're saying, son, it's okay that you're a little different. And the school saying it's okay for you're a little different. We're not going to treat you any differently. And everybody's saying that. Why would you have a problem with it?
Let me say something. I think, Robert, I don't think that people would have a problem with it. I think, or those specific terms. I think people would want to tell their children on their own is not to say, son, those people are gay, but you're not gay, or those people are gay, but you shouldn't feel that way. Maybe you could say a caveat like, son, those people are gay. That's what gay looks like, but you don't have to feel that way if that's not who you are. Or let them know. Because, see, look, listen to what you're saying. Because a lot of the times the school will tell them, yes, it's okay to be that, but the school never says it's okay to not be that as well.
What are you talking?
If you don't want to be that,
okay to be gay?
No, listen. Just listen to what I'm saying. If you look at the literature and you look in the books, they'll always say it's okay to be that way, which, okay, it's okay if that's how you is or you are. But they never say, but if that's not what you want to be, you don't have to be that either. That's giving both options. It seems like the option that's Tyrone, giving the most is this is what you should be.
Tyrone,
you see what I'm saying?
Tyrone, are you basically saying that the schools don't tell people that it's okay to be heterosexual?
I don't think they talk about. No, I'm very serious. I don't think the schools talk about being heterosexual.
You don't think the schools talk about men and women, mommy and daddy, and how babies are born, and you don't think they talk about that?
And that's what I'm saying. That's getting changed. That's getting changed. And when when they talk about the option of being gay, it's only the option of being gay. It's never an option of not being gay. You see what I'm saying?
It's an option, dude.
Well, it is. If it's somebody who don't know, or I think.
Gay, a lot of motherfuckers chose that shit. A lot of motherfuckers decided to walk into it and I'm gonna be gay.
That's an assumption. That's an assumption. You couldn't, Ravon, even if you decided today to be attracted to men, you couldn't do it, dog.
They done messed me up. I'm gonna go mess with women now. Man.
Even if someone came on to you today and you said, you know what, this person's real cool, you decided you want to be gay, you couldn't be gay, dog. You couldn't do it. You're not attracted to men.
All right, now how about if you start when they're young and you constantly put it in their head like, hey, maybe this is something. Hold on. This is something you want to try. I mean, maybe that's a fundamental difference in certain people's thoughts, but at the same time, you would think that people you can't make somebody a killer, but you can. You might think that you can't make somebody a lot of things, but if you teach them and show them something repetitively and you start to soften their natural stance on it, then I think it's possible. I'm not saying that it happens with everybody or nothing like that.
Tyrone, nobody told you to be attracted to women. You just were, dude. Nobody programmed you to be attracted to women. You just were. You just were, dog.
So as a baby, you see it on Sesame Street. The little cuddle buddies is you got the homosexual little cuddle buddies now. What was the little motherfuckers with the smokers on their head, whatever they call them? And from a baby, get this indoctrination. Get this push. Oh, just because it's homosexuals in the real world. Yeah, it's homosexuals in the real world. But in my house, they might not never run across it. You understand what I'm saying? But if they watch TV, if they watch shows that's supposed to just be teaching them just about shit that they do, you know what I'm saying? You don't have to push. Disney doesn't have to have the homosexual prince kissing on cartoons just to let kids know. They don't have to do that shit. That's all I'm saying. They don't have to have all that shit going on. I mean, oh, it's this and that, man.
It's like this. I could kind of liken it to sports. Say football. I come from a football family. And so this is like, I'm just going to change the direction a little bit, but I'm talking about the same thing. So if I constantly watch football and I always make my son sit next to me and watch football, and then every time he sees me talking or hear me talking to my friends, we're talking about football. And then I'm talking to my buddies about how I can't wait for my son to grow up and play football. I never told him he had to play, but he automatically feels like he has to play based on the things that I have said to him and the things that I've showed to him by him seeing it, the things that I've said to other people. So I don't directly have to say, hey, son, you better play football. But if he grows up knowing that that's what I want him to do, I never have to say it to him for him to know or to feel like, well, dang, I have to play football. And the reason I'm talking about the reason that people might want to teach their kids is because I think it likens that to school. I mean, when school teaches about the gay education or gay history or whatever, or even acceptance. I understand you teach about acceptance, but it's also okay to say, hey, son, but you don't have to play football. Just because I like football, just because I think football is a wonderful sport, son, I don't think that you pick football on your own. And I think that's what the schools don't do when it comes to the homosexuality and stuff like that. They never tell you, hey, accept this is what's going on, but it's up to you to pick. It's more just like open-ended, you see. And
but people don't choose. The sexual orientation is different, Tyrone. People don't choose their sexual orientation, bro. You didn't choose your sexual orientation, Tyrone.
I don't think everything is I don't think everything is an absolute. I don't think we can speak in terms of absolute, because I do think that some people are turned gay or do decide to become gay. I do think that some people are born that way. Is there anything
wrong with deciding to be gay? Is there anything wrong with someone deciding to be gay?
No, that's your decision. But at the same time, I don't think there's anything wrong with somebody teaching their kid that on their own time and on their own volition, because people know what they want their kids to learn.
It's wrong for the school to say we treat everybody the same, no matter what their color of skin or their sexual orientation.
No, I don't. No, they should do that. They should definitely do that.
No, you gotta go.
Treat everybody the same. Then that's my whole thing. Treat everybody the same thing. But why make it a big old thing?
They do.
Heterosexual. When somebody come out the closet, you are mandated to cheer. All right, yeah, that's great. You got an athlete that's gay. Woo, 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 woo. So what?
When somebody gets a girlfriend or a boyfriend, people cheer for them and be like, "Oh, you guys are so cute and happy." They do the same thing. What are you talking about?
They get the tutus just like they got the homosexual cheerleaders.
That's because listen. Hold on, because this is why. Because when Jackie Robinson was the first Black baseball player, he still celebrated as a champion of sports. Because guess what? Up until then, Black people was not allowed to play baseball on a major league in the major leagues. And not only that, he went through a lot of barriers when he did that, and he broke down a lot of barriers for other people. That's why they're excited now, because they're going through a thing where when they see a black person, or like Michael Sams, when he was gay and he got drafted in the NFL, he's openly gay. Yeah, they cheered because he's breaking down barriers for other people. And that's something that does need to be cheered, period. And if we all treat everybody the same, it would be no barrier to break down in the first place.
There have been gay athletes. He ain't no trailblazer.
Not openly.
Gay athletes.
Not openly gay. Who? Openly gay. Go ahead. Give me. Openly gay athletes. Huh?
Where they were.
Who? They were gay in the closet. Because trust me, there were gay athletes that were coming out in a documentary I watched, and they were like, yeah, when I was playing, I never said I was gay because they would have tortured me to no end. Or they knew I was gay. On the low, they found out somehow, and they made my life hell. Do you understand what I'm saying? This dude was openly gay. This dude was openly gay, and yeah, they cheered for him because he was doing something, and he was being brave, and he broke down barriers for people that didn't have a voice, which were athletes that were in the closet that felt like they would never be accepted if they came out of the closet because they're in a macho world. Come on, man, you can't see that. You can't see that.
You got something, Rovon?
Yeah, hold it on. Go ahead. I'm
okay. Yeah, I understand.
Just get on this. I got to pull up because I don't know the exact name. This drug that they got in the immunization that's linked to homosexuality also.
All right. Well, I was going to say while you do that, Robert, I understand what you mean about cheering a breakthrough. I absolutely do understand what you mean about cheering a breakthrough. And I'm just saying, because I hear a lot of conversation about it, I do think that people just think that a lot of these things are just like being forced upon them, or maybe like the LGBT community are getting things that other people can't get. And they're only getting it because they're the LGBTQ community. And a lot of it is forced because even like the restroom laws in California, the restroom things, the majority of people were against it. You see what I mean? Even with California and the new sex ed guidelines, most of the people were actually against it. So most people are will be against something and they'll still force it through anyway. And then I think people are getting frustrated with the fact that you could be for LGBTQ, whatever, but if you're against it in any way, shape, or form, and then you're a homophobe, you hate, and all that stuff. It's like, if you like, even somebody who says, I don't want it in the schools, or I don't want them teaching elementary kids about being a transgender because I want to teach my kid that. The first thing they're going to say is, well, you just want to teach your kid to hate, when that's not true.
The same rhetoric this is the same rhetoric that was surrounding integration in the schools. Oh, bathroom laws. Oh, black people get to use the same bathrooms too. They can go to school with us now. I don't want them teaching my kids about black people. I should be able to teach them about black people. The same, every argument.
Yeah, they should.
They were saying the same thing about segregation. So the thing about it is just like those arguments don't fly when we're talking about the government making sure that everyone is equally represented or has the equal rights. They don't fly with this either. Those arguments are not reasons to marginalize people's rights.
No. How is it marginalizing somebody's rights to say, I want to be able to teach my own children about transgender people? How is that marginalizing somebody's rights? Because you still have the right to be transgender if I want to teach my own children about being transgender.
But they're not stopping you from teaching your own children. You said you want to teach their own children. What do you want to teach them that's different than what the school's going to teach them?
No, but again, does that matter if I want to be the one that teaches them? See, you can't legislate what somebody teaches their kids, or you want to set a standard. You want to say, well, I don't trust you as the parent to teach what I think is ethically right, so I want the school to do it instead.
What if somebody took that same look at like flat earth? Oh no, they teach the school, they teach the earth is round here. Well, no, I don't want you teaching my kids geography because I want them to understand that the world is flat. See, the whole thing is this: if you don't have to send your kids to public school. Period. That's the thing. True. And even if my kid comes to me with something that he learned in school that they're teaching, because a lot of times they low-key teach religion in school. I'm not religious and I don't like that, right? They low-key teach religion in school to a certain extent. So if my kid comes in and he's like, oh, he says something religious, I can help him think about it or it starts the conversation in my home. Not oh, throw everything they're saying out the window. No, let's talk about this. Oh, Dad, guess what? Today they had a story time. At story time, they had two boys together, a dad and a dad. Okay, well, what did you think about that? It starts the conversation. So you can talk about it. You can still teach your kids whatever you want to teach them. Well, if it's anything different than what the school's teaching them, that's the only reason you would have a problem with the school teaching them anything, is if it's going to be totally different than what the school's teaching. And if the school's teaching acceptance,
that's not true.
Why would you have a problem with that?
That's not true. You're telling people what they're going to teach their children based on what you think that somebody's going to teach their child. I could teach my child tolerance. I could teach my child understanding. I could teach my child all of those things, but I could do it in my own time, the way that I think my child is able to accept it, when I think my child is ready for it. So I could teach tolerance without saying, well, and look, if you want to be like Jimmy and Timmy, you should be like Jimmy and Timmy too. Let them come up with that own conclusion. Let them come up with that by themselves, because they also give that encouragement. It not only is it should be acceptable, but if you want to be like Timmy and Jimmy, then just go ahead. Okay.
Well, then that's why if you don't think that should be part of it, then what I would say first of all is have a talk with your teachers or principals about the curriculum, because it might not even be that big, that extensive what they do. Do you understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So make sure that first of all, again, have your values in place, right? Go to your teachers and principals, whatever, express your concerns. They'll let you know what's in the curriculum. That's available to everyone. That's public knowledge. Okay. If you don't like what's in the curriculum, find alternative ways to educate your children, because they do allow that in the United States.
They do. Ravon, were you saying something? I'm sorry.
Hold on, man. I'm trying to find a damn video. But I looked it up and everything. It's the chemical that they have. When you tell me about you don't have a choice on whether or not you're going to be homosexual or not, the chemical that they have is in the immunization. It's the homosexuality. So, it's pumping the kids. I hate to even talk about it because I can't see the exact name of them right now, but I looked it up, read about it there. But if you pump the kids with the chemical, then you push it to the gender, you got a double whammy. Then you have your agenda. That's a double whammy. It's the feminization of the black man playing simple.
Wait, they vaccinate white people too. White people get vaccinated too. So it can't just be the effemination of black men. It has to be all men.
Are we the minority or are they?
Why do wait?
Wait.
Oh, no, you said they're doing it with the vaccines.
And you don't know that.
With the indoctrination. But all white people get vaccinated too, and they all go to the same schools. So what are you saying?
You just go to a certain area, right or wrong.
What?
They know where that dose is going. They know where they're sending this shit. They know where they're sending their dose. They know where they're sending this.
What? I need some. Maybe you could just send me on another time. Send me.
I get you on that.
So I can familiarize myself. Yeah. For sure. I'll look into that. But I mean, I was vaccinated. My kids are. I don't know. I'm not.
Nothing is absolute. Nothing is. That's what I'm saying. Nothing is absolute. You don't get everybody. It may not hit everybody.
Most people aren't.
People to get one. If you get 40 people and you get one person, then they're good.
What?
Yeah,
most people aren't gay.
Look. I'm gonna leave that part alone because
I was gonna say when you got something when you remember like exactly what you're talking about, it might be a little bit better to bring up the topic.
Yeah, that's a good different topic.
Yeah, but it's all good. But it's an agenda, is what I'm saying. A long story short, there is an agenda. You know what I mean? fact that everybody want to say it, I ain't even want to deny that there is one. They don't.
I'm not denying that there is one, Ravon. I'm saying it's the agenda is to make as many people gay as possible. That's like the agenda. Like we need as many gay folks as possible. And that's the Democrats doing it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, I'll be honest, I do think there's a sort of agenda in place. I think the agenda is more or less you're going to take this whether you like it or not, and you're going to take it however it's given to you. And I think that's what is frustrating with a lot of people, because again, and then people can have their own biases. And so it's like they said, you can't even be biased, but there's a lot of biased people, and you can't force somebody to not be biased. And so if it is somebody being biased or a stereotype or whatever it is, or even if somebody is homophobic, it's like I can't force somebody to not even be racist. If they're going to be racist, they're going to be racist. I don't know if I can actually legislate against it, although it has been tried. But
right. But I want the government to accept gays, even if I don't.
Yeah. Well, I think
and if I don't, I want the government to stand up for everybody, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that, Robert.
That's all.
I agree with that, Robert.
That's all I'm cool with.
They do.
I agree. Everybody equal protection.
Hate gays, but the government should not.
Right. And then, with that being said, if we got to be fair, if they could talk about LGBTQ in school, but then a few years ago they took like the Bible out of school, that's what I mean. It seems like one group of people is getting things, their agenda pushed more than other people.
Don't about the Bible then. If you're gonna give one side, why not get just like debate class?
Wait, so the Bible is the other side?
Huh?
The Bible is the other side? The Bible that says kill homosexuals? You want to teach kids that? All right.
Well, the Bible says that a man can't lay with a man. It does say
says that they both should
man,
die. Should stone them until they're dead. That's what we want to teach kids? We want to teach kids to stone homosexuals.
Robert, I'm just saying, Robert.
Push one line, then you got to push the other one. People serious about their Bible, right or wrong. People real serious about their Bible, just like people real serious about their little sexuality. People real serious about their Bible, and it's
with them teaching.
It shits in the face of people's religion, and people. If I'm at home teaching my kids, if I'm a religious zealot like Mike Pitt, and I'm teaching my kids straight all this religion. And then they go to school, and y'all just shitting in the face of what I'm teaching my kids, because that's what you decided you gonna do. Well, that's a problem too, right or wrong.
Oh well, we're not gonna teach. We're not gonna teach kids to kill homosexuals like the Bible does.
No.
Well, look, Robert. I think what he's saying, and what he's saying is kind of like what I'm saying. People are very serious about the Bible. People believe the Bible, with all their heart, and their morality points them toward the Bible. Their religion points them toward the Bible. They grew up with the Bible, and they want their kids to learn out of the Bible.
Teach them the Bible at home. Teach them the Bible at home.
That's the exact same thing that we are saying about the LGBTQ education. So why is one different than the other?
That's not a religion, bro. That's not a religion. That's two different things. That's apples and oranges all the way.
They say it's all about bullying. They say it's all about bullying. They say that they're doing it. So you teach kids not to bully. You teach kids not to bully other people.
Because a lot of kids were gay kids and they got bullied in school.
Why do you have to have a big old dying ass homosexual classroom and all this thing going on just to say, don't be mean to people who ain't the same as you? It's the same for black versus.
I don't know what this gay classroom you're talking about is. I've never seen one. I've never even heard of one exist.
But why does it have to be this big old thing where you have to push to the kids?
It's only a big thing because you're triggered by it. See, it's not really a big deal if someone's gay or if it's not a big deal if someone's gay.
You know what?
It's not.
You say, okay, there are gay people in real life. They're saying this in real life. They're saying this in real life. Let's go ahead and start teaching about Satan. Because they're saying this in real life. There are people who believe in Satan. Let's go ahead and throw them up in there.
That's a religion. Right, but if someone believes in Satan, hold on. If somebody believes in Satan, the government should not be able to discriminate against them. They should not. The government should not discriminate against them at all. And if you're in a religious studies class and they bring up Satanism, it's because they're Satanists in real life. But it's not a religious studies class. And if it's a religious studies class, then I understand it. But they should not be discriminated against. And if they want to go to school, they should be able to go to school. And nobody should bully them because they're Satanists. That's real.
But that's the whole thing. But they're Satanists. They're getting bullied. They're committing suicide. So we got to make a big old special thing.
Yes. Yes, we do. Do not beat somebody up because their religious views are different than yours. Yes, that's what we got to say.
Well, yeah, it should just be equality, period, point blank. You just don't treat people bad. Right, I don't think you have to put an exact label or a stigma to it.
Oh, unless, Tyrone, if they're killing specifically, targeting and killing Satanists, you might have the responsibility to say Satanists. You might have to say, hey, Satanists, do not kill them.
Yeah, I get that. That's true.
So they're targeting homosexual children for bullying. So sometimes you have to say homosexuals are just like us.
Kids are the meanest motherfuckers moving. Always have been.
Guess what? Since they started going in on bullying, yeah, there's still kids that are bullies, but it ain't like when we were kids. It really ain't the same when you go to schools. I was shocked. I have 5 kids. I have 5 kids.
Have a specific class about transgenders and what they go through and why they become trans and how they become transgenders and why do you have to teach kids all of that just to say don't bully people?
Because those are the ones that were targeted and oftentimes for bullying, and they're trying to let people and the bank. What teaches kids not to bully is education, because you bully kids that are different. You could bully kids because they're different than you. But when you start to understand, so you're an adult, but you're not going around bullying people the way you were when you're in school. Like, you're different. You might, when I was in school, I used to joke on people. I used to crack a whole bunch of jokes on people, but I'm not going around cracking jokes on adults the way I used to on kids when I was in school. Why? Because I matured and I learned more about the world, and I understood that, hey, you know what? The stuff that we think in our little school bubble is weird. Actually, there's millions of people doing that same thing.
You live life.
Right.
You experience and you did things.
And part of that experience lets you know that people are a lot more alike than they are different. So that experience is an education. We are educating the kids and let them know that, hey, this person might be different than you, but you're actually more alike than you think, and it's okay to be friends, and you don't have to bully this person, and you don't have to do that, because kids are killing themselves. Yeah. You know that, right?
Kids are killing kids. You got white boys out there killing kids because they can't make friends.
Right.
All right, here, let me show you guys this real quick.
Go movement to be the white boy friend. Everybody go hold hands with the white boy come shoot up the school.
Let me show you guys this. And this is something that I remember seeing. There was a transgender, it says, transgender reveal in kindergarten class leave parents feeling betrayed. There was a teacher, and there's a few stories like this. There was a teacher, one day he was a man, and then he came back to school a couple of days, he was a lady. And they're talking about how it confused the kids. This right here was in kindergarten. A teacher, she didn't tell the parents about her gender change or gender reveal, but she came out in the kindergarten class and revealed to her class that she changed her identity or changed her gender without ever telling the parents. And then I was reading earlier, it was saying how it left the kids feeling confused and stuff like that. That's more, and I'm only showing you, that's what I mean when I say people feel like it's being forced upon them.
How often does that happen?
I think it happens often. I think we're actually seeing it more and more and more, where parents are hearing about their kids coming home and saying, I could show you another one. There was a transgender that showed her class a coming out video. And it's like, and I understand coming out could be tumultuous. Coming out could be something that you get bullied over. But again, I don't know if it's that teacher's thing to do it, because look, a transgender teacher telling these kids, look, it's okay to come out. I did. You don't know if it's telling any other kids like, well, is that what I should be doing? You see what I mean? I don't know if they always give the full context. And I think that's why I think parents want to teach themselves.
If a kid realizes they're gay, they should be coming out. If they're gay, they should come out.
Yeah, well, oh yeah, if they're gay, they should come out. But I think it's
because guess what's gonna happen, Tyrone?
No.
Guess what's gonna happen, Tyrone?
I know, but it shouldn't be up to their transgender teacher to tell them that. I understand to make them feel okay, because there's kids in there that aren't gay or are not transgender that's going to wonder, like, well, what's really going on? And then
guess what, Tyrone? If someone's confused about, say a little kid, maybe 7 or 8, comes out and says, I saw this video about coming out and I think I'm gay. And then they want to come out. And so they tell their parents, hey, I'm gay. You know that if they're confused and they're really not gay, did you know how long of a conversation do you think it would convince them, like, wait a minute, you know what? I'm actually not gay. I just thought I was. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I heard what you
come
saying.
out. It's when they keep it a secret that it's a problem, right?
I heard what you're saying. I think that should be parent communication. I think that should be more parent communication and dealing with your own kids.
Yeah, coming out means you're going to come out to your parents.
They're in kindergarten. Why is it this teacher's job to come to school who dressed up as a woman? Huh?
I think that if the teacher has a transgender person, see, there's right there there's where we can have a debate, because that is a tender subject, but that person has a right to be a transgender person if they want.
Yeah, they got a right.
They can express it. Hold on, and they can express it however they want. And if you think you can come up dressed like a woman and come to school when these kids have seen you as a man this whole time, and you don't have to explain nothing to them, you got another thing coming. These kids, they're going to be really confused if you don't say nothing. So what I'm saying is there has to be.
But you're assuming that nobody's going to talk to their kids.
Right. There has to be a policy and a guideline and a way to do this in a way that respects the parents, respects the children, and respects that transgender person as well. There has to be a way, but we have to be creative and think of ways and have the conversation. I don't think what that teacher did was right, but I think that teacher did not have any guidance on how to do those
teacher
things.
Should be fired.
But this is an opportunity
to be fired.
Maybe. If the school board said we're firing you for that reason, guess what though? They would probably have a lawsuit on their hands. And because you can't fire somebody just for coming out as transgender. You really can't.
Yeah, see, look, let me show you this.
Especially when there's no policy in place. Now they have to put a policy in place.
What I'm talking about isn't just coming out as transgender. It's coming out and you're doing your reveal for your kids without telling the parents. You should tell the parents, hey, I'm transgendered. I'm about to go get a surgery. So Thursday, Jimmy is going to see me as a man. And next Thursday, Jimmy's going to see me as a woman. And then see, because that can be confusing for a child. And that's what I think. And that's why I think people feel like things are being forced upon them. Like, look right here.
Yeah.
This was last week, June 4th. Wisconsin parents outraged after teacher gives transgender lesson to K5, K through 5th grade without permission. And so that's what I'm saying. And this was just last week. And this stuff is happening a lot. And so when people say,
what does that have to do with bullying?
They're forcing it. You see what I mean?
I don't think they're forcing it. I think they're telling it. But what the thing is, Tyrone, is because hold on, hear me out. Because I agree with you guys I agree with you guys in the fact that it's wrong to do it that way. But the only it was a bad judgment by the teacher because there's no policy in place. And I think that the people that are higher up in these school boards and things of that nature need to make sure that there are policies that these teachers have to follow in doing things like this. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay. I'm not saying what the teachers did was right. I'm saying it's wrong. What I'm saying is there needs to be policy to fix that. Because they need guidance. So obviously the teacher made a bad decision and needs some guidance on this. If they lose their job, I'll be totally for that. Whatever the school board decides and the parent with the parents as far as the decision made on that, that's fair. You understand what I'm saying? Because actions have consequences. But what I'm saying is that to make sure that this is not done like this in the future, we have to have a policy in place. Number one, when people violate the policy, they can enforce it. And number two, so the people that want to do it in a responsible manner have the means to do it in a responsible manner. Because there is a responsible manner, a responsible way to do it.
Yeah. Hold on, I'll be right back.
All right. Hey, Rovan. I guess here, let me let me do that. What'd you say? Okay. Well, yeah, I understand what you're saying. And Robert, I think there's a lot of things that we agree with here. And sometimes I don't want that to always get out of everybody's sights. I do think that the schools should be required to treat everybody equally. And I do understand even what you were saying about people wanting to celebrate their accomplishments after they've been marginalized for a certain amount of time or being marginalized. The only thing that I was saying was I was trying to illustrate the reasons why people feel like it's being forced upon them. You see what I mean? And so I was just trying to illustrate why people feel like it's forced upon them, because a lot of people do. And we can't deny that because you hear it every day. It's being forced upon me. It's being forced upon me. So I think just like we can't deny that gay people have been treated a certain way, we also can't deny that some people feel as if some things are being forced upon them. You know what I mean?
Right. And it was similar. It's just similar. It just smacks of the same thing, though, that people were saying about Black History Month in schools, period. Oh, I feel like it's being forced on us, on our white kids. You know what I mean? You know, so it's actually, you know, I get what you're saying, though. I mostly agree with what you're saying again myself, too. It's just that I don't, sometimes we have to be careful in the way that we kind of express the thing, because sometimes it just sounds the same. It sounds on the same vein as other times of, you know,
because they always, because that's always the move. Because that's always the move is, oh, when Black people were doing this and when Black people were doing that, and it's just like when Black people, no, it ain't the same. It ain't even close to the same.
I think it's not the same, but it's
close to the same. It's not even, it's nowhere near the same. You understand what I'm saying? And I get sick of that shit right there, because that's another way they're forcing it on us. Oh, it's just like when you guys were doing this and that. No, it's not. No, it's not at all. You understand what I'm saying? But see, this is what bothers me, because you want to take everything and make it all, it's just like when y'all was this and just like when y'all was that. Oh, well, that's just like when people said they didn't want their kids with Black kids and they didn't do their kid. Bullshit.
I don't think it's the same.
Ain't nobody saying they don't want their kids going to school. No, it ain't. None of it is the same. None of it is the same, because nobody's saying they don't want their kids.
Is exactly the same. The language that people are using is
nobody's saying that they don't want their kids. Wait a minute. Nobody's saying that they don't want their kids going to school with little gay kids.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
I think that might be the extreme, and I think a lot of times
that's all that is.
And I think a lot of times when we have this conversation, I do think a lot of people just go straight to the extreme. They go straight to the extreme parent that I hate gay people, I hate this, I hate that, and they don't realize it's a lot of.
That's not extreme in the Black community.
I think I think it's extreme. We have 3 Black men on here right now that makes 100% of us, and none of us are saying that we hate nobody.
But you see what I mean? And I know Tyrone.
I know.
I call away from one. We're one, and he knows who he is if he's watching. We're one phone call away from one, bro. Just like that. And I already know.
I don't even think he hates gay people. I don't think he hates gay people. I don't think he likes their lifestyle. You know what I mean? But I don't think he hates them. But I don't know. I don't know. He might, but we'll ask him that directly one day. We'll ask him that directly.
I won't do him like that. I ain't gonna do. He ain't here, so I ain't gonna do him like that.
Yeah, but I think Robert, that's what happens is, and I think that's why a lot of us get frustrated with the conversation is because of those extremes. Like basically, if I say I want to teach my own child or tell my own child, then somebody's automatic response is, well, you're just going to teach them to hate. And I'm like, no, I'm going to teach.
Or my favorite, well, you must be gay too. That must be the problem. You must be gay.
Or you're homophobic, or you know, when that's
the one I love.
But it happens a lot. And
that ignorant ass, that stupid ass shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because if you ain't with the agenda, then it's all this other bullshit.
Most of the time, because I stick up for gay people, then people call me gay. Most of the time.
And that's true too. And that's on the other end of the paradigm.
You gotta have the other side of the conversation.
Right. That's which is, you know, isn't fair either. You see what I'm saying? But like I said, again, Those are the extremes. It's always the extremes. And I find in a lot of these conversations, people's talking points and people's opinion on other people often reflects the extreme. I'll never teach my kids to hate anybody or to not love somebody or treat somebody with respect. But I also would teach them that you don't have to be that way, and don't let seeing it manipulate who you are. You see what I mean?
I don't need no kindergarten teacher teaching my kids
unless you're actually
about
gay.
that shit.
Yeah, if
Unless
that's what,
actually gay.
And that's my point. Don't let nothing you're seeing manipulate who you are. There was a song called "I Kissed a Girl and I Liked It," and if I recall, the girl who made the song is straight as could be. Yeah. You see what I'm trying to say? And so these type of things happen, and so that's the only thing. That's why I think the extremes shouldn't be used as an example when talking about the masses. And I think that's going on with a lot of stuff. Everything we talk about, you only hear the extreme end of it, when most of us are kind of somewhere in the middle of it.
I would agree with that.
All right, let's see. And Allison Bryan says he may be a religious person and feels that is morally incorrect. And that's true, Robert. I mean, yeah, Robert almost said his name. That's true. I think he's just that's just his religion is against it, and he against it too. And let me read something else.
And you'll teach your kids that at home. Your kids will get that. They'll understand that about you. They will.
Yeah, they will.
No matter what the school says, you're a parent, and your kids are going to understand more about what you think about the subject than what a school thinks about the subject. Because you have all day. They have a couple hours, that they talk about.
I was scrolling through the comments. I hit the sad face on accident. I didn't mean that. Allison Bryan says, I have a gay daughter, and people have free will to do and love as they see fit, but they don't have the right to change my personal moral fiber or what I want for my children to be exposed to in schools. That means gay, straight, transgender is not the government or school board. Okay, yeah. So and that's what, and I agree with her on that. Like,
some people, like I said before, some people don't want some people don't want round earth taught in school.
we doing a show on flat earth next week.
Really? Oh, you gotta let me in on that.
You definitely, can you do the interview? Because I don't know nothing about the flat earth or what they believe.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do the interview. That's cool.
All right.
Hey, mute my microphone.
All right. Well, hey, Rovon, look, give us your last word. We're gonna go ahead and jump off. I think we got what we wanted to say out, and we talked about an extra comment too.
All right, so this is my thing right here. Like I said before, I'm all for everybody living their life. I don't want to get in nobody's way of living their life. Whoever you love is who you love, and you got a right to love who the hell you gonna love. Without nobody getting in your way, stepping on your feet about it. But you don't need to step on my feet about it neither. You don't need to start dictating how I gotta live my life because of your choices. You understand? That's my whole point. You don't get to tell me how to raise my kids because you made a choice and you live in your life. And I don't get to tell you how to raise your kids. That's all my thing is right there. Slow that agenda down. And we was way back on the Democrat. This conversation that took all kind of turns. That's my whole thing right there. Long story short, I gotta go.
All right, Rovon, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you,
Rovon. Nice to see you. Nice. Thanks, man. Stay up.
All right, yeah, that's Rovon. He been around from the beginning, man. He was he's one of the first people to ever come off Soapbox. I got you, Rovon.
All right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Robert, and we did take some turns, but I think the turn we took, I always pay attention, and it was because we were talking about California and voting Democratic, and we start talking about the social issues, the wedge issues, and I think that particular issue is because you gave a list of things. Do you want this? I think that issue right there alone will make people say, nah, I don't want none of those things. And I'm just honestly, you see what I'm saying?
If you don't want none of those things, then you should never have been voting Democrat. You're not a Democrat. So you shouldn't have been voting. Like, if you're voting Democrat and you don't want any of those things, you have been voting against your own interest, and you really should be saying, why should we vote Democrat? Yeah. You on the other side of that. Why would you even, you're a conservative. Why would you do that? You know?
Yes, sir.
So I hope I clarify, because it's not my job to tell people who to vote for. I will tell them if they ask. But my thing is this, and like I always tell you, Tyrone, is that vote. We need to vote. Just get out there, get your opinion, vote. It's important. Get it out there, be heard. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's important. It's not who you. If everybody that we talk to on the Sound of Our Voice decided to vote Republican, I'm not voting Republican, but I would respect the fact that they just got out there and voted, you know?
Right.
And because Black people have, for hundreds of years in this country, have not had a voice. And now that we're given a voice, we act like we don't want to use that voice. There in 2016, we actually had less Black people voting than ever before. And a part of that was because the Democratic Party and the Republican Party didn't have candidates that reflected our values, you know?
Right.
But we do have candidates in this running that reflect, I think, values that anybody that understands Black people and what our needs as a people are, that there's people that reflect that. But it's up to you to get out there, look into it, know your own values, and just exercise your right. There's been so many roadblocks put in the way of Black people to keep us from voting, because they never want us to understand and to exercise the tremendous amount of power that comes with doing the civic duty of voting. And when we just throw that away because we're disenfranchised with the process, you don't understand how that affects has a ripple effect into the next generation. And so you do your kids a favor and vote.
Right. And let me add something to that. What I would like to say to what Robert is saying is, I don't think people should bash each other either for who they vote, because we do a lot of that. Somebody might not vote, or somebody might say, I'm voting third party. Then you'll hear somebody say, well, a third party vote is a vote for Donald Trump. But you got to remember, that's their individual right to vote for whoever they feel is the best for their interests. And so when you bash and clobber people for not voting for who you want them to vote for, just think you might be disillusioning them for voting, period. People, we could push each other out the voting process just due to being overbearing and frustrating people away. So if somebody want to vote for something because they really feel like it fit their life, then I think that maybe sometime we have to accept that.
Right. We have to accept the fact that there's a wide variety of ideas in the marketplace of ideas, and we all have, and nobody has a corner on the market, and we can exchange and talk about and ideas and go back and forth on those and pros and cons. But let's not get into the ad hominem. Let's not get into the habit of saying, well, they voted for Trump, so. I've had people that said, because I wouldn't come out and speak out against Trump, that has said that that they didn't want to talk to me anymore because I spent more time, holding my own party and my own candidates accountable, as opposed to coming out against someone that's not interested in my vote and I'm not interested in voting for. So, but that's not the way to approach it. There's people that be like, if you voted for Trump, I'm not going to be your friend. So, well, how can you guys come to some kind of agreement, understanding as Americans? Civil discourse and idea and free exchange of ideas is what's going to move Black people into the future, especially in a time like this where so many things are changing rapidly. Black people need to learn how to process and exchange ideas freely and not turn into some kind of monolith, which I know we're not turning into. We're actually moving away from, and that's a good thing. But
I don't know. I think sometimes that we're becoming more of a monolith as time passes. Just the social media culture. Look, I have people who will get mad at me for asking an objective question about Donald Trump. I didn't even vote for Donald Trump, and like, if just an objective question. If it isn't, I hate him, then, oh, you must love Donald Trump. I get deleted every time I say something about Donald Trump. And a lot of the times I'm saying it has nothing to do with even my personal feelings. It might just be something that literally happened. And people just are so intrinsically mad about it to where they don't even think the question through. They don't even hear the question. They just see the name Donald Trump and instantly turned off. And that's what's scaring me is I feel like we're losing objectivity now. I feel like all objectivity has gone out the window, and it's just the extremes on both sides talking. And like we said earlier, most of us kind of meet in the middle. That's how we can have these conversations, because when we sit back and we listen, we agree on a lot more things than we disagree. But the people,
absolutely.
Go ahead, Robert.
Absolutely. Just like a lot of the issues that I brought up on that thing was like when we're talking about healthcare. Again, 70% of Americans believe in single payer healthcare, for instance, and that's Republicans and Democrats combined. Is extremely popular. And into regime change wars, so many 70% of Americans get behind that. So on a lot of issues are what we call populist ideas, where the people really want those things, and with very little exception. And if we start to learn to bond around the things that we agree on and just get that stuff out of the way, the stuff that Republicans and Democrats get along with and agree on, they need to just get all that stuff out of the way and get that passed and get that done. And then let's start debating on some of the minutia or some of the more touchier subjects, or the ones that divide them a little bit more. I think that they'll find out they have a lot more common or more reasons to actually come together than to be apart on even some of the more touchier issues. Right.
Well, that makes sense. And why don't we go ahead and wrap it up? I think we had a nice, good conversation. I got on late. Robert wanted to talk about it earlier, and I was moving around in traffic, and I'm so glad he got to get on. You guys, when you watch this, make sure that next time or in the future, when you see it and you see people on here and there's other people, show them some love. Let's make sure that we pay attention to what people got to say. Robert always talks about expanding Black media and expanding our own options and things we talk about. So Robert is going to be a big part of the expansion. And it looks like Robert is going to be interviewing some people on Flat Earth. And so,
so much fun.
So yeah, I want to know, Robert. I've never paid any attention to the Flat Earth conversation because
Good.
I just felt like
much.
well, we're gonna see. We're gonna see. A friend of mine has some Flat Earthers that he's going to introduce to the show, and they're gonna come on and they're gonna give their spiel, and I guess you're gonna question them. But with that being said, I want to say thank you, Robert. Thank you for coming on. This has been so.
Thank you, Tyrone.
Oh man, thank you. You guys, it don't move without you guys. So with that being said, I'm going to play this last little song. This is Name Brand, Swish. And I play this all the time because he's a wonderful artist. I want you guys to go pick it up. It's rare that you meet such a good artist. And this is what frustrates me, Robert. Hold on. Let me say this real quick, man. Just because we be talking. This guy has more talent in his pinky finger than I would say 70% of the rappers who are struggling to make it. And 95% of the rappers who have made it. And it confuses me so much because it's just like, if a famous person said, hey, like this guy, people would like him. But why can't we make somebody like this guy based on his talent? Not us even make him like him, but his talent. Why is it like that? Earlier, I said people cheer for the underdog when it comes to sports, but in real life, we kick them. Why we kick them, Robert?
Well, think about it like this, Tyrone. If you was to go in your house right now and go to your stove, can you make a better burger than McDonald's?
Yeah, hell yeah. In fact, that's what's about to happen.
But if you tried to sell them burgers, would you make as much money as McDonald's?
No.
Because it's not about the product. It's not about the product. It's about the system.
Well, I'm going to leave the show on that. I'm going to go ahead and play this video. Robert dropped the microphone. We out of here. You guys check out Name Brand.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Woo. FYI, it's me. I come from the beach. Yeah. Relocating to eat. Got me rounded like a peach. My childhood wasn't straight. Had to iron out the kinks. The price you gotta pay when you live in sucker free. Yeah. Woo. Too strong. Came back to the night with a new song. And did hard labor like a newborn. Say I balled on a bitch that's RuPaul. Pulled up here with my new wife. She bad, gotta put it in a coupon. Took a year off for the fam, nigga. Like, man, we been waiting here too long. Got me feeling like a man right now. Got me rich and Didi was there. Can't afford the house in Bel Air. Had to get on my grizzly, nigga. I had about just all I could bear. No yogi, that's why I'm up early in the morning. Trying to take advantage of the moment. Then come back and get more shit. Not a minute late. No. They gon' interfere, we gon' innovate. Woo. Boss tryna talk like a renegade. Put him in his place, then we renovate. Yeah. Then make him pay for the real estate. For the years I stayed, I ain't get a raise. I treat it like a line at a subway. Y'all about to see what I'm finna make. Ooh. Got me feeling like a man right now. Yeah. Got me feeling like a man right now.